So now let's get started with today's class. In today's class, again, one more thing I want to tell you is that we have studied most of the technologies of emerging technology, but कुछ applications and थोड़े बहुत ideas रह गए हैं. So where there are only things to explain, I will go in depth. Otherwise, I will just tell you कि हाँ ये चीजें हैं और हमें ये करनी है. Especially because हमें आज खत्म करना है कोर्स and we will do it. जो एक्सप्लेन करने का पार्ट है, नोबेल प्राइजेस, डार्क मैटर, जो हेल्थ के एक दो टॉपिक्स रह गए थे, जो स्पेस के एक दो टॉपिक्स रह गए थे, वो हम सारे आज करेंगे. जो चीजें सिर्फ समझने की हैं, जो आप पढ़ के खुद समझ सकते हैं, आई विल टेल यू हाउ टू रीड देम एंड यू रीड देम फ्रॉम द स्लाइड्स. ये बात हम एक बार पहले भी डिस्कस कर चुके हैं. Right. So last class में the last topic that we were studying was AI. We read AI and neural networks in detail. And AI से हमने जो main बात समझी थी वो थी pattern analysis. That what it does is it analyzes patterns and through that pattern analysis it can help generate results. We can even talk to it. That is basically what ChatGPT was. So ChatGPT stands for Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. हम बिल्कुल वर्ड ब्रेकडाउन करेंगे. This is generative AI. We know what this means. It can generate human-like responsive. Pre-trained, हमने इसको ट्रेन कर रखा है और कहां पे ट्रेन किया है? We have trained it for all the data that was present in the internet in 2021 September. तो 2021 September तक जितना डेटा इंटरनेट पे था उस पे हमने चैट जीपीटी को ट्रेन किया है. एंड इट इज अ ट्रांसफॉर्मर. ट्रांसफॉर्मर मींस इट यूजेस अ एनकोडर एंड अ डिकोडर. एंड ये दोनों चीजें हम पढ़ चुके हैं. किसने डेवलप किया है चैट जीपीटी को? इट इज अ स्टार्टअप कॉल्ड ओपन एआई. ओके नाउ, एंड सिंस इट इज अ चैटबॉट वी कैन हैव अ कॉन्वर्सेशन विद इट. एंड हाउ विल वी हैव अ कॉन्वर्सेशन? बिकॉज इट हैज रेड सो मेनी थिंग्स थ्रू द आइडिया ऑफ नेचुरल लैंग्वेज प्रोसेसिंग. ये भी हमने देखा था, इसके कुछ स्टेप्स भी थे. तो जब हम इससे कुछ पूछते हैं ये अंडरस्टैंड कर लेता है हमने क्या पूछा है. बहुत सारी बुक्स में देखता है कि क्या क्या लिखा है and through those patterns, through that probability it gives an answer. जैसे हमने एक आइडिया देखा था what do you know about cricket, तो उसका ये कैसे जवाब देगा. Now अगर आपको इसको डिटेल में समझना है I would recommend that you go to this site. It is free to use to an extent. आप खुद यूज करके देखो and you'll understand a lot about it. Now it is based on language training, so there is a computer language model which we know as natural language processing, जिसके बेसिस पे चैट जीपीटी चलता है. राइट, इट इज ट्रेन्ड टू प्रिडिक्ट and analyze patterns, and that is why we can have conversations with it. Therefore the name chat gpt, because it is a chatbot. You can talk to it. Okay, now ये इसका एक मेन इशू है, इस पे हम आते हैं. एंड फर्स्ट लेट्स रीड दिस, दैट इट इज ट्रेन्ड यूजिंग रीइंफोर्समेंट लर्निंग फ्रॉम ह्यूमन फीडबैक. जब हम इसकी ट्रेनिंग कर रहे थे, नाउ इट इज ट्रेन्ड, यू कैन यूज इट. बट व्हेन वी वर ट्रेनिंग इट, हम क्या कर रहे थे कि जब ये कोई इनअप्रोप्रिएट रिस्पॉन्स देता था या गलत रिस्पॉन्स देता था तो ह्यूमंस इसको फीडबैक देते थे दैट दिस रिस्पॉन्स इज रॉन्ग, यू आर नॉट सपोज्ड टू गिव दिस रिस्पॉन्स, दिस इज द आइडियल रिस्पॉन्स यू वर सपोज्ड टू गिव. दैट इज द प्रोसेस हाउ इट गॉट ट्रेन्ड. एंड वो ट्रेनिंग की प्रोसेस अगेन इज कनेक्टेड टू द आइडिया ऑफ न्यूरल नेटवर्क्स दैट वी हैव ऑलरेडी रेड. नाउ अब यहां पे एक बात है कि मान लो आप चैट जीपीटी को बोलो कि राइट समथिंग रेसिस्ट, ठीक है, या फिर आप चैट जीपीटी को बोलो कि टेल मी व्हाई व्हाइट पीपल आर बेटर एट एवरीथिंग देन ब्लैक पीपल. लेट्स से यू गिव दिस कमांड टू चैट जीपीटी. ओके, तो चैट जीपीटी विल नॉट गिव यू एन आंसर. इट विल डिक्लाइन टू रिस्पॉन्ड because it is trained to decline inappropriate requests, and this inappropriate request answering and what is considered inappropriate, why white people are better than black people, right? This is of course inappropriate, but kahan is that limit of inappropriate, और ये कौन define करेगा? That is the major ethical issue of AI. So when we are reading for GS4, और ये बहुत likely है इस साल GS4 में, because last year when the war in Ukraine was happening 2022 means में they asked a question on the ethics of war. So now it's very likely that they ask a question on the ethics of AI, and this is the major concern कि कौन डिसाइड करता है क्या इनअप्रोप्रिएट है. आपको इसका मैं एक इंस्टेंस बताता हूं. पहले इट वाज आस्क्ड राइट अ पोएम प्रेजिंग जो बाइडेन. तो चैट जीपीटी ने अपने आप से, क्योंकि इट इज अ जनरेटिव एआई, इट कैन राइट original content, it generated a poem. Then it was asked, write a poem praising Donald Trump, and it refused to answer. अब वो चीज करेक्ट हो गई है. The OpenAI, the company has gone back into its code and corrected that. But ये एक example है why this is an ethical issue. What is appropriate and what is not? Who decides? Right. OpenAI जो स्टार्टअप है जिसने ये बिल्ड किया है, उसका एक और प्रोडक्ट है DAL-E. Now DAL-E, what does it do? It converts text to image. मान लो आप उसे कोई भी weird सी चीज दे दो, जैसे कि Mario playing chess. So it will make you an image of Mario playing chess, right? This is also an application of AI only. Now, Google ने भी अपना एक chatbot बनाया है on this technology called Lambda. Lambda is again a machine learning. We know what this means. Language model. We know what this means. तो ये machine learning से उसे language सिखा रहे हैं. This is the idea called Lambda. It is a technique. कैसे काम करती है इसकी डिटेल में जाना बिल्कुल जरूरी नहीं है. But using this Lambda technique, even Google has made a chatbot, and that chatbot is called Bard. B-A-R-D. आगे इसका screenshot भी attached है. I'll just show it to you. That chatbot is called Bard. Okay. All right. Now, human AI collaboration. अगर human AI collaboration means if we are to work with AI, what could be the possible applications of AI? जब ऐसा question आए, you are supposed to think big. Okay, I know एक क्वेश्चन है जो सबको डाउट है 2020 में, कैन इट मेक मीनिंगफुल शॉर्ट स्टोरीज और नॉट. आई विल एड्रेस दैट. ओके, डोंट वरी, वो क्वेश्चन हम क्लास में लाइव करेंगे. बट फॉर नाउ, ह्यूमन एआई कोलैबोरेशन में यू थिंक बिग, राइट? व्हेन यू गेट अ क्वेश्चन यू थिंक बिग, अनलेस देयर आर सम पॉइंटर्स इन द क्वेश्चन, लाइक एट द प्रेजेंट स्टेट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी. व्हेन इट सेज थिंग्स लाइक दिस, एट द प्रेजेंट स्टेट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी, देन यू बिकम वेरी केयरफुल. तब all of the above पे मत जाना. Be careful and then read every option carefully. Second, when you are reading this human AI collaboration, what can AI do? What can AI, कहाँ उसकी implications हैं? Look out for something very weird, जो बहुत ही कोई अजीब चीज हो, right? अगर कुछ बहुत ही अजीब दिख रहा है, right? तब you are supposed to knock that out. But mostly in all these questions, you will have to think big and apply your brain थोड़ा सा widely. तो आपके आंसर्स करेक्ट होंगे. नाउ, इफ देयर हैज टू बी कोलैबोरेशन बिटवीन ह्यूमन एंड एआई, तो तीन तरह की हो सकती है. फर्स्ट है सपोर्टिव, कि एआई स्टार्ट्स सपोर्टिंग व्हाट वी आर डूइंग, राइट? द सेकंड इज इट रीइमेजिन्स द प्रोसेस. जैसे अभी मैं ये स्लाइड्स बनाता हूं, राइट? बट वी कैन रीइमेजिन दिस प्रोसेस कि मैं एआई को बोलूं यार आई हैव टू टीच एआई टुडे, मेक मी सम गुड स्लाइड्स, और वो बना के दे दे. तो जो मीनियल जॉब है, जो स्लाइड बनाने का काम है, जिसमें कंटेंट इकट्ठा करना है, that AI can do effectively. So that is reimagining. And third is completely replacing. कि AI पढ़ा भी दे, मुझे सिर्फ हेल्प ना करे, वो मुझे replace भी कर दे, and you have a bot standing here that is just delivering information, right? So these could be the three modes of how AI could collaborate with humans. Now let's see the applications and benefits of AI. Of course, it is going to have applications in health, in education, in skilling. Applications यहाँ लिखी हुई है, and this is pretty easy to understand, right? Health में आप अगर सोचो तो जो डॉक्टर्स डायग्नोसिस करते हैं, जो एक्सरे देख के बताते हैं कि आप ठीक हो या नहीं, एआई देख के बता देगा. व्हेन डॉक्टर्स आर रीडिंग द बुक्स एंड फाइंडिंग यार इस पेशेंट के लिए बेस्ट मेडिसिन कौन सी है, एआई की डेटा प्रोसेसिंग स्पीड तो बहुत बेटर है, तो वो करके दे देगा, राइट? सो इट हैज एप्लीकेशंस एवरीवेयर. इन एग्रीकल्चर इट हैज एप्लीकेशंस, इन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग. तो वही मैं आपको कह रहा था, यू थिंक बिग, राइट? व्हेन एनर्जी, हाई एप्लीकेशंस, फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज, लॉट ऑफ एप्लीकेशंस एवरीवेयर, राइट? जैसे फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज में अगर आप इसको इकोनॉमी का डेटा एनालाइज करने के लिए दे दो, सो व्हाट कैन इट डू? इट कैन डिटेक्ट कि यार फाइनेंशियल रिस्क आने वाला है. आपको इसका एक बहुत अच्छा एग्जांपल देता हूं इकोनॉमी में, व्हाट इवन द गवर्नमेंट इज डूइंग नाउ. जब मनरेगा के डिमांड बढ़ जाए, व्हेन पीपल स्टार्ट डिमांडिंग मोर फ्रॉम मनरेगा, व्हाट डज दैट मीन? इट मींस कि लोग अनएम्प्लॉयड ज्यादा हो रहे हैं, लोगों को मनरेगा चाहिए, लोग स्टेट से डिमांड कर रहे हैं कि हमें एम्प्लॉयमेंट दे दो. दैट मींस इट इज पॉसिबल दैट एन इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस इज अपकमिंग. That is where you could use AI in economic and financial services. आप AI से वो डेटा एनालाइज करो, पैटर्न्स प्रिडिक्ट करो कि यार देखो, when मनरेगा डिमांड increases, it means that the industry is going to collapse and now we need to give a stimulus to the industry, right? So there are infinite applications. Defense, law, disaster management. You can just read this. मैं ये इसमें जा नहीं रहा हूं. यहाँ पर एक इंपॉर्टेंट IR के हिसाब से भी और वैसे भी चीज है कि what is the Indian scenario around AI. इसमें there is an important thing called GPAI. GPAI is the global partnership for AI. As you can think, AI is a very important technology. एंड जब इतनी इंपॉर्टेंट, इतनी हाई लेवल टेक्नोलॉजी होती है तो जनरली कंट्रीज दे फॉर्म ग्रुप्स और उनके बीच में बेसिकली डिविजन हो जाती हैं, बिकॉज दे डोंट वांट टू शेयर ऑल द प्रोग्रेस दे आर मेकिंग, राइट? तो GPAI इज बेसिकली NATO plus India and some other countries to form a global partnership to develop AI. इसमें ना रशिया है ना चाइना है, right? They have been kept out and India is included in GPAI, right? So this is a global partnership. तो इसमें जैसे US की कंट्री, US है, EU की कंट्रीज हो गई, then there is Canada and Japan and Australia and all the NATO allies and India, but no Russia, no China, because this is an exclusionary grouping where they want to share the technology they have and not let that technology go to Russia and China. This is called weaponization of technology, and at the next level it would be called weaponization of supply chains. जब मैं IR आपको पढ़ाऊंगा this Sunday on YouTube, तब मैं आपको ये बात डिटेल में बताऊंगा. So I'm not covering that in detail right now. Okay. So this is BARD. BARD is a conversational AI service powered by Lambda made by Google. जो मैं आपको बता रहा हूं, right? This is the idea of BARD. बस नाम याद रख लो, बहुत है, right? Now let's come to the next idea, which is metaverse. Okay, metaverse क्या है? Metaverse is a blockchain based games and application setup where you would live in a virtual world. Blockchain based games and applications where you would actually live inside a virtual world, right? इसमें दो तीन चीजें हैं जो आपको याद करने की जरूरत है. First is play to earn. The more you are invested, the more you play, the more you spend time there, you will be given rewards in the form of tokens. What are tokens? वो हम blockchain के टाइम पे देख चुके हैं. So blockchain को use करके एक ऐसा world बनाया जा रहा है using AI and blockchain, and ऐसा world बनाया जा रहा है जहां पे you would actually live in the digital space. How that works, I'll just show you. Right? What is happening is you are living within a digitally enhanced surrounding. इसमें क्या है, कुछ टेक्नोलॉजीज यूज होती हैं जो डेवलप एप्पल, गूगल, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, all of them, they are developing this technology to the extent that Facebook has now renamed its parent company to Meta. So they are going to shift to metaverse very soon. तो इन टेक्नोलॉजीज को हम कहते हैं एक्सटेंडेड रियलिटीज. ओके, एक्सटेंडेड रियलिटीज. इसकी एक वीडियो हम क्लास के एंड में देखेंगे. ओके, we'll see a video at the end of the class where we see how extended realities work. अभी I'm not breaking the flow. इसमें कौन कौन सी टेक्नोलॉजी है? There is VR और virtual reality, AR और augmented reality, holograms and avatars. Right? ये चार टेक्नोलॉजी हैं जो हमें समझनी है. There is VR, AR, hologram and avatar. तो चलो हम ये चारों टेक्नोलॉजी समझते हैं. पहली है वर्चुअल रियलिटी. वर्चुअल रियलिटी में क्या होता है? आपने देखा होगा लोग वो बड़े बड़े हेडसेट लगा के घूम रहे होते हैं. Like they would be sitting and there would be like a headset that would cover your entire eyes. That is a VR headset. I'll just show you a picture also. उसमें आपको लगता है कि आप खुद एक वर्चुअल दुनिया में हो. The world is close to you. आप अपने beyond नहीं देख रहे. You are just looking inside that headset in your phone, and because वो headset designed ऐसा होता है कि जैसा phone तो हमें 2D दिखता है, you would see the VR headset as a 3D thing. So you would feel that you are inside a virtual world. That is what VR is, right? It is a simulation that allows you to see 3D visual effect by closing the world. The entire world is close to you. You are not seeing outside, you are only seeing inside that headset. Second technology that is used here is AR. If you have ever played Pokemon Go, that is a wonderful example of AR. AR क्या होता है? AR is augmented reality. Again, we will do word breakdown. Augmented. Augmented means increased, right? Better. So what you are doing is you are looking at the room or you are looking at where you are right now. जैसे मैं अभी स्टूडियो में हूं. I will look at the studio, but when I look at it through my phone, I will see certain things popping up, right? जो actually present नहीं है, but मेरे phone पे मुझे दिख रही है कि in this surrounding only there are certain things present. That would be called augmented reality. जैसे गेम थी Pokemon Go. I'll show you a picture of this. And then there is a hologram. Hologram क्या है? कि hologram वैसे I'm sure you know also, but a hologram is basically a 3D representation of something due to interaction of light images. इसकी भी एक फोटो दिखाता हूं. This is another technology that we are using for the metaverse. And the last technology is Avatar. Avatar, not that movie, right? Not James Cameron. Avatar is basically your representation of the metaverse. What you would be represented as inside the metaverse. Another thing here is user distinction. That means, जैसे अभी भी Facebook is different for every user. मेटावर्स वुड बी कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट फॉर एवरी यूजर. डोंट वरी, इसकी हम एक वीडियो देखेंगे टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ इट वर्क्स. बट मेटावर्स में आपको 3-4 चीजें देखनी है. फर्स्ट इज वर्चुअल रियलिटी, wearing a headset and the world is closed, something like this, right? This is virtual reality. You are wearing this headset and nothing is visible to you outside, but आपको अंदर ऐसा कुछ दिख रहा है. Something 3D is visible to you कि मैं यार I am inside a virtual reality. Second is augmented reality. This is the idea of augmented reality. This is a screenshot of Pokemon Go. That ये देखो एक normal सड़क ही है, normal road है, person is standing here, but when he uses his phone to see it, he would see some objects popping up. जैसे यहाँ पे there is Pikachu here, right? So this is augmented reality. जो actual reality है उसको थोड़ा बढ़ाना है. And the third thing is hologram. This is what a hologram looks like. Through light interference, they are trying to make a 3D image. Through the use of lights, a 3D image is being made rather than a 2D image like we normally see on a screen. So these are the 3 technologies. And virtual reality के अंदर how you would be represented or how your friends would be represented, that would be called an avatar. So these are the technologies that are used for metaverse. Now since these technologies are an extension of reality, whatever the reality is उसका थोड़ा extension है, so these are called extended reality. Okay, XR extended reality is the full name for all these technologies. So like I was showing you, extended realities includes all of them. जैसे कि VR, AR, hologram, avatar, all of this is included in the idea of extended reality. So it is the extension of the actual reality that you normally see. इनमें differences क्या होते हैं? That we can see through these photos. And एक हम वीडियो देखेंगे towards the end of the class जहां पे हम actual how it works वो भी हम समझ लेंगे. Okay. Next idea we have to see is satellite based internet connectivity. जब last time I had taught you the internet and I had taught you how internet works, I had told you that जो internet का wireless part है वो बहुत बहुत छोटा है, right? Around the world, under the sea, throughout the world, cables ये जो जिसे हम कहते हैं optic fiber cables have been laid down and वो communicate कर रही है internet को because we want fast transmission. Because in optic fiber cables, data is traveling as light and it is traveling at the speed of light. Okay. So we are using right now, we are using optic fiber cables to communicate with everybody. But मान लो कोई ऐसी जगह हो जहां पर cable laying possible now, where the terrain is bad, where the infrastructure is not good enough, there we can use things like satellite based connectivity. It will obviously also have applications when there is a disaster. मान लो earthquake हो गया और ground based सारी stations खराब हो गए, then you still can communicate with the satellite. ये हमने satellite communication के time पे डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट की एप्लीकेशन में भी पढ़ा था, राइट? ओके, सो इन सैटेलाइट बेस्ड इंटरनेट कनेक्टिविटी इट इज यूजिंग two-way satellites, means information is going from the phone to the satellite and coming back from the satellite to the phone, right, to communicate between internet service providers and users, right? What is internet service provider? Airtel, Jio. A company that provides you the service of internet is a ISP. Okay. Now there are two models here, direct to satellite model and hybrid model. वो देखते हैं. But before that I'll tell you that this is what it looks like. For example, this is your computer. You are connected to this particular modem or whatever or Wi-Fi. This is then connected to a satellite, right? And there is another satellite at the, this is connected to an antenna and there is another antenna at your internet provider. So it goes like this and it comes back rather than going through a particular cable. जहां पर हम ये cables नहीं लगा सकते वहां पर we would use this, that we would use the satellite. अब इसकी obviously कुछ problems हैं. The problem is that the latency or the delay would be more, right? If you use satellites, the latency or delay would be higher, right? In a cable, obviously, it would be better to use a cable. The speed would be faster, the internet would be better. But cable हम हर जगह लगा नहीं सकते. But satellite से हम communicate हर जगह से कर सकते. तो अब हम देखते हैं which satellites do we use, right? So you can have a low Earth orbit satellite based internet connectivity, or you could have a geostationary satellite based internet connectivity. Geostationary or geosynchronous either could be used. यहाँ पर सिर्फ height की बात हो रही है. So a low Earth orbit would mean, या चलो बताओ, what would a low Earth orbit mean? किस height तक ये satellite होगी? And tell me what a geostationary or a geosynchronous satellite would mean. ये किस height तक orbit होगी? What is A? What is the maximum limit of A? And what is the maximum limit of B? A is 2000 because a low Earth orbit would be 0 to 2000 and a maximum height of a geostationary or a geosynchronous satellite would be 35786 kilometers, or you could also remember something like 36,000. That also I would accept as the right answer. Okay, now अब अगर हम LEO में सैटेलाइट से यूज करें इंटरनेट कनेक्टिविटी, व्हाट वुड हैपन? LEO में द गुड थिंग इज दैट द हाइट इज लोअर, द हाइट इज लेस, so the ground signal has to travel less and come back less. So what would be less? The latency or the delay will be less. Because the satellite is much closer to us, the latency would be less. Still more than that of a cable, but relatively less. Right? So there is low latency. This is the main advantage of using a LEO. But there are some advantages of using a GEO. What is the advantage of a GEO? अगर हम LEO यूज करेंगे, हम लो लेवल पे यूज करेंगे सैटेलाइट को, so we would need many more satellites. GEO में क्या है? The serviceable area on Earth by each satellite is more. अगर आप यहां से देखोगे या आप यहां से देखोगे, from this position you can see more, from this position you can see less. So अगर आप GEO में लगाओगे, it will be cheaper because you will need less satellites. But the issue will be issue of latency. तो अब इसके बीच में हमें बैलेंस स्ट्राइक करना है. LEO में यूज करें या GEO में यूज करें? GEO क्योंकि इट इज फार्दर फ्रॉम द अर्थ. जस्ट अ सेकेंड. If this is the earth, right? If you use a LEO would be somewhere here. So it can see only this much. If I use a GEO can see this much. Right? So GEO का जो है वो कवरेज तो ज्यादा है. It can cover much more. Right? But देखो यहां पे the distance that needs to be traveled is much more. If it is just LEO, the distance is much less. So the latency in the case of a GEO, because of more distance, the latency will be higher. तो अब हमें एक बैलेंस स्ट्राइक करना है कि हमें GEO में हम सैटेलाइट लगाएंगे तो कम सैटेलाइट में पूरी अर्थ कवर हो जाएगी, but the latency will be high. और सारी LEO में लगा देंगे तो we will need a lot of satellites. So this is the idea between using satellite-based internet connectivity, LEO versus GEO. And good to all of those who has given the right answer. Now, अब इसके दो मॉडल्स हैं. First is that you make all the devices connect directly to the satellite. Phone is also connected to the satellite. Laptop is also connected to the satellite. That is a direct to satellite model. Second model is hybrid model. Hybrid model is that first you connect all the devices that you have. Right? Let's say you have these 4 devices. You connect them to a local network, which is called a LPWAN or a low powered wide area network. You connect them all to a local network and then make that network point connect to the satellite. Pretty clear? या तो आप सारी devices को directly connect करा दो, या you make them all connect to a local place and then that local place can connect directly to the satellite. So that is a hybrid model or this is a direct to satellite model. Okay. And यहाँ पे just a basic idea about this is written that it is possible using both GEO and LEO satellites. It is different from satellite television. Why is it different from satellite television? Because in satellite television there is only one way transmission. You are not giving any information to the satellite in television, but यहाँ there is two way transmission. आपको receive करके वापस भी data भेजना है. Television you are just seeing, right? All you can do is change the channel, but यहाँ पे you are giving input also that now I want this data to be input in this one site. So it is more difficult to do than satellite TV. And then of course we are giving the broadband signal through a satellite rather than a copper or a fiber network, right? This much is clear. This is satellite based internet connectivity. Okay, यहाँ इसके कुछ benefits और challenges लिखे हैं. Of course the benefits would be it's better in rural areas, in areas where there is limited ground infrastructure. Challenges क्या हैं? Low speed, high latency, right? And of course the other challenge would be, that is written here, that could be space junk, that if you put too many satellites there, it could lead to orbital debris or space debris, which would be a problem for us, right? Okay. Moving on now, we have to come to the idea of VPN. To explain the idea of VPN, let me show you something. ठीक है, आप मान लो कि यहां पर this is your headquarters of an organization. ठीक है, this is your side office or branch of an organization. अब आपने इन दोनों को कनेक्ट करना है, right? You want के यहां पे HQ में कुछ डेटा होगा, इनके नेटवर्क में कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट फाइल्स होंगी. This branch also wants access to that. So the best way to connect them is connect them through the internet. You use the internet to connect them and then the branch will be able to access everything on the HQ and vice versa. Problem क्या है यहाँ पे? Problem यहाँ पे ये है that the internet has many bad actors or hackers. there are bad actors or hackers on the internet. अगर ये data as it is यहाँ से travel कर रहा हुआ, they have the ability to come in, hack this data, and then take the secrets of the organization out. Right? This is a huge problem in case we are using internet directly. तो अब हम क्या करें? हम करते हैं कि इस डेटा को जो हम यहां से यहां इंटरनेट से भेज रहे थे, पब्लिक इंटरनेट से भेज रहे थे, आई वुड वांट अ वे टू क्रिप्टोग्राफिकली प्रोटेक्ट इट और एनक्रिप्ट इट. मैं इस डेटा को फ्रीली नहीं छोड़ता, मैं इसमें कुछ एनक्रिप्शन कर देता हूं. You know what encryption is, right? We have read that in hash algorithms, right? So मान लो मैं इस डेटा को encrypt कर दूं. If I don't make it clearly visible, I encrypt it and सिर्फ जिसके पास पासवर्ड है सिर्फ वही इस डेटा को देख पाए, बाकियों को ये डेटा बिल्कुल मीनिंगलेस लगे. So I can make a tunnel like this, right? जिसमें ये डेटा जाए, the data would be encrypted, the HQ has the password and you have the password. अब अगर आप कम्युनिकेट करोगे, कोई बीच में अगर डेटा इंटरप्रेट करने की कोशिश करेगा, they will not get any information because it is encrypted using a password. Only the HQ will get it and only the branch will get it. This idea of encrypting data is basically what a VPN is. This tunnel that protects your data, right? That makes it virtually, you have not done anything really. आपने actual internet की केबल के ऊपर tunnel नहीं लगाया. Virtually, you have made this connection, this network between these two things private because it is now only privately accessible. So word breakdown, virtually through the use of technology, you have made this connection private. So it is a virtual private network. तो हमने क्या किया? We have made a tunnel to protect this data. Virtually we have made it through encryption. So it would be called a virtual private network because virtually now the network between these two has been made private and nobody else can access it. This is what a VPN is. So a VPN is a computer network across a public internet, originally connected to public internet से ही है. It is public internet only, but through a tunnel, through encryption, I have made it better. That provides user access to their organization's network while maintaining security of the information provided. So what it does is it gives you online privacy and anonymity by creating a private network from a public internet connection. So you've understood this idea? Private network बना लिया मैंने on a public connection by making a virtual tunnel so that if anyone tries to interfere or get my data, they will not be able to access it. Only those who have password will be able to access it. Okay, so this is what happens. Let's say this is your normal device and internet connection. Normal device internet connection is like this, that you are going from here to here. There is no encryption, so it is completely visible. But in case you are using a VPN, you would first put your data into a VPN. The VPN would then encrypt it and then connect with the internet. So your data, हमने याद करो when we studied how the internet works. What all data are you giving? You are telling me that I of this IP address X want the website with the IP address Y to be delivered at the location Z. So you are telling the world that you are at this IP address and you are telling them that you are at this location. But if you encrypt this, right, you can make the world not see your IP address and you can not make the world not see your location. And this can also be used for some purpose. Like अगर आप इंडिया में Netflix चलाओ, so there are many things that are not visible. But if you use a VPN and then spoof your location to USA, VPN क्या करेगा? आपका डेटा encrypt कर देगा या change कर देगा. So Netflix would think that you are actually accessing it from USA and you would get access to the content that Netflix gives on USA and does not give in India. So this is another application of a VPN because virtually you have made your connection private. What you are talking to the internet or what you actually want is encrypted now and you can change it. This is what a VPN does. Now these are the type of VPN. What we were reading was site to site VPN. First site would be the headquarters and the second site would be the branch office. So a connection like this, a tunnel like this would be a site to site VPN. What is a SSL VPN? Let me tell you. जैसे मान लो यही यहाँ पे connection है, there is a HQ and a branch. There is a third person, right? There is a third person who is an employee. जैसे अभी Ed Sarrthi के लिए I was working from home when I was sick. I was not coming to the office, right? So I am here. I am working from home. Now I still want access to the HQ's information, right? I was still You were still only seeing what you were seeing the class still on Sarrthi's platform, even though I was at home. So I still wanted access to the HQ, right? We were doing it over the public internet, but मान लो अगर मैं इस डेटा को encrypt करना चाहता हूं, तो this would be called an SSL VPN. This would be called SSL. What it stands for or how it works doesn't matter. What SSL basically is that there are individual users who are not present at the site, who are working from home, who are using the public internet, who are outside. You want those individual users to have an access to the organization's network without the need for specialized software. If you use specialized software, that would again be site to site. Site to site का तो हमने example देख ही लिया. If you are not using specialized software, but you want individual users to get access, that would be SSL VPN. The third is client to server VPN. NordVPN, ExpressVPN, whatever VPN we are using, that is a client to server VPN, right? So these are the three types. अगर नाम भी याद रख लोगे, even that would be enough. This is the idea that let's say you are going on the internet, then you are telling them what location I want, what website I want, and what is my IP address. If there is a hacker, he can look at this and get your data. So what a VPN does, a VPN takes your information, it would first encrypt it in a tunnel and then get it to the internet. So now if someone tries to access it, they would only see the encrypted information, not the actual information. So it is a virtual private network. Moving on to the next concept, which is long-term evolution and voice over long-term evolution. देखो, long-term evolution कुछ नहीं है. Long-term evolution is just another name for 4G. It is the long-term evolution of data networks. The first network was 2G, then there was 3G, now there is 4G, and now even 5G is coming. So 4G का other name is long-term evolution or LTE. The idea that we have to understand is VoLTE or voice over LTE. और ये आपके phones में अभी भी आपको दिखता होगा कभी-कभी that 4G की जगह LTE लिखा हुआ है. Now what used to happen normally in LTE was voice over LTE नहीं, normal LTE में क्या होता था that when you were using the internet, what was happening is that your data or your voice का जो data, आप phone internet भी use कर रहा है और voice भी use कर रहा है, तो voice को वो 2G या 3G पे डाल देता था and 4G से वो data चलाता था. What was your phone doing? Your voice was routed on 2G or 3G and the data was running on 4G. Okay? जब आपको कोई phone आता था, while using the internet, when you used to get a phone, what used to happen is that the phone used to switch to 2G or 3G, go to the voice connection. But when it switched, आपका data बंद हो जाता था. So during a call, you were not able to access the internet. Why? Because internet services were working through 4G and voice was working through 2G or 3G. So during a call, you would not get access to the internet. Now, what did voice over LTE do? It's pretty clear. It's in the name. ज़्यादा you can just do word breakdown and you can understand that it started putting the voice also over the 4G or LTE network. It turned the voice into data packets और internet के छोटे-छोटे जो parts हैं, the way we communicate are called data packets. So it turned voice into a data packet and even turned voice through 4G. So voice भी 4G से जा रही है and your normal internet connection भी 4G से जा रहा है. This was done and this led to voice over LTE. So now even when you are taking phone calls, you can use 4G networks, right? So VoLTE or voice over LTE allows voice calls to be packaged and carried through LTE networks. This would mean that 4G data accessibility is there even during calls. This is the idea of LTE or voice over LTE. Okay. Now, imagine you get an email containing your bank statement. आपको मान लो आज सुबह एक ईमेल आया जिसमें आपकी बैंक स्टेटमेंट है. नाउ अब आप ध्यान से सुनो. This bank statement is on the internet. Correct? It's on the internet, but I can't access it. If I want to look at your bank statement or you want to look at mine, you can't do it. You will need specific passwords, etc., etc. So it's on the internet, but not accessible to you. That means that there is a part of the internet. There is a part of the internet that is not freely accessible to everybody. This part of the internet that is not freely accessible to everybody is called the deep web. Not the dark net. Dark net we will see. I'm just explaining to you right now the deep web. जैसे आपका bank statement. It's on the internet, right? But not accessible to me. So there is a part of the internet which is not accessible to what everyone, that is called deep web. Okay, all right. कैसे होता है ये? It uses non-standard communication protocol, right? It uses non-standard communication protocols. So it is, जो communication protocol क्या है? Your idea or the way you communicate over the internet. जो standard protocol है, right? जो standard protocol है, that would be used for the surface web, जैसे Google, जैसे Facebook, जैसे Bing, sites that are accessible through every search engine and every browser. But here what is happening is it is using non-standard communication. So that in non-standard communication, you would require a password to then access things that are on the internet. So that is that part of the internet that is not freely available to you. इसमें भी there is a dark net. Deep के अंदर भी there is a dark net. What that is, let me show you. Right? So firstly, there is the surface web, जो हम सबको accessible है. Things like Google, Wikipedia, Bing. This is only 4% of the internet. Okay, this is only 4% of the actual internet. Then you have the deep web. Deep web has things like financial records, medical records, your data that is protected by passwords. That is the deep web. And deep web is about 90% of the internet. Okay, 90% of the internet is the deep web. अब deep web के भी नीचे जाके there is something called the dark web. Now dark web is accessible not through passwords, not through search engines, but through special browsers. For example, the one called Tor. So this is the part of the internet where you will find murderers, where you will find child pornography, where you will find things that are not normally accessible. This part of the internet is outside the regulation of governments, right? It requires special encrypted software to use. कैसे चलता है and how it works is not important. You just need to know that there is a part of the internet out there that's called the dark web that has things that are not accessible to you through Google or Safari or Google Chrome or Microsoft or Firefox or something like that. You would need special browsers to get here, and special browsers to get here to get the access to things that are here. तो ये कौन यूज करता है? These are used by people in oppressive regimes. जैसे मान लो नॉर्थ कोरिया में a journalist wants to work, so he would use the dark web because it's encrypted, because it is hidden. Government does not have access or control to this, right? This is what the dark web is, and you must remember this associated term called Tor. Tor is an internet browser called the onion ring or the onion router. It's called an onion router because ये encrypt करके data को, it goes around in circles like this, it encrypts your data and then lets you access the dark web. Right? So this is what the Tor is, and Tor gives you access to the dark web. The dark web which is not normally available to the surface engines that we use. 6% of the internet is the dark web. Technically you can say it's part of the deep web. 90% is the deep web, like your bank accounts and your financial records. And the final 4% that we actually use in our everyday lives is the surface web, right? That's all you needed to know here. Now, what are the concerns over darknet? Of course, there are concerns of anonymity, illicit activity, ethical concerns, drug dealing can happen, communication by terrorists happens here because governments do not have full control here. This is done through heavy levels of encryption, so the government does not have control here, right? Okay, moving on. Now we have to understand the concept of RFID or radio frequency identification. RFID क्या है? Radio frequency identification. Now, as you can probably see from this word, RF or radio frequency stands for radio waves. So it is a communication technology that uses radio waves. Now, what are radio waves? ये बात आपको already पता है and we have already read this. इसमें क्या होता है? That an antenna, right? An antenna, or that antenna को हम हमेशा वो बड़ा चीज ना समझें. An antenna can be on the back of a phone also, right? An antenna generates radio waves, sends it to a tag. The tag processes it, gets it back to the antenna, and then the antenna can see कि अच्छा उस tag में क्या information है. So what happens is there is an antenna. On one side there is an antenna. The antenna generates radio waves. It goes to a tag. The tag sends the information back. information is only going in this direction. So there is one way information flow happening at a small distance. This is what you would call RFID or radio frequency ID. अगर आपको इसका एक एग्जाम्पल दूं तो इसका वेरी सिंपल एग्जाम्पल इज इफ यू हैव सीन पीपल हु हैव दोस आई कार्ड जो वो हमेशा ऐसे बीप कराते हैं, राइट? दे हैव आई कार्ड दैट दे वुड बीप ऑन अ पर्टिकुलर डिवाइस टू मार्क देयर अटेंडेंस. दैट इज एन एप्लीकेशन ऑफ RFID कॉल्ड NFC. NFC भी हम देखेंगे, but that identification of what is happening in your FASTag is there. FASTag will give, there is a tag on your car screen. When you come to the toll, some radio wave will come from the antenna. The tag will get energy. The tag will then reflect the radio wave back. The reflected radio wave will carry the information of the tag. आपकी कार यहाँ आई, the antenna, it starts to give certain information. Antenna starts to release certain radio waves. Radio waves hit the tag. Tag sends information back in the form of radio waves. This is what a fast tag is doing. And जब आपकी information वहां पहुंच जाती है, the toll is removed from your tag and the gate opens. This is the idea of radio frequency ID, using radio frequency to communicate. There are two parts here. There is a RFID tag and there is an antenna. Antenna sends the radio wave. Tag sends the information back. Information antenna तक आ गई. Now antenna will read this information. Information आई है, it has come in the form of radio wave. इस radio wave जो वापस आई है टैग से, इसमें जो information है इसको read करता है antenna through a device called reader. The information then goes to the computer and the computer then takes the action. Like FASTag से information गई antenna पे, antenna ने इसको process किया, find किया, okay this is Shivin Chaudhary, this is the amount of money that's remaining in his car balance और इतना टोल हमें काटना है. अकाउंट से टोल कट गया and the like the barrier would open, right? This is what a RFID system is. अगर आप यहाँ पे ध्यान से देखो, there is only one way communication, right? Communication is only happening one way. Tag is giving information to the antenna. Radio waves are going both ways, correct? But the communication is happening only one way. सिर्फ एक तरफ communication होती है because only one way information needs to be delivered. Second thing अगर आप देखो तो एक decently long distance पे हो रही है. It would still be called short range technology. बहुत दूर तो distance नहीं है. But when the RFID tag is let's say 10 meters away, even then this communication can happen. 10 meters away from the antenna also the communication happens because the antenna is far and your car is here. So 10 meters के आसपास this can do its communication. This is the idea of RFID. Now there is a similar technology called near field communication. There is a similar technology called near field communication that is using the same idea. Of communication using radio waves, but there is a small difference. So NFC is a technology that allows compatible devices that can use NFC to use radio communication with each other. Okay, but यहाँ पर क्या है? यहाँ पर the communication that is happening, it is two-way communication. RFID में क्या था? टैग में कुछ फिक्स इंफॉर्मेशन है, वो आपने एंटेना तक पहुंचा दी. NFC में क्या है? There is two-way communication. I give you some information, you give it back. What we are doing right now is one-way communication. But if I look at the comments, it becomes two-way communication. I give you some communication and you give me some communication back. So in case of NFC, what happens is that the communication is two-way rather than one-way. So it is also using the idea of RFID. Similar technology use करता है, but there is a small difference. There is also a new principle called magnetic induction that it uses. तो पहले मैं आपको magnetic induction principle बताता हूं, then I'll tell you what the difference is. NFC का example would be you touching your phone, या जैसे आपने Apple Watch की ad में देखा होगा कि वो Apple Watch ऐसे touch करते हैं और payment हो जाती है. That is what? That is communication happening, right? That communication, but it has to be very close for that. Almost contact में आना पड़ता है या just 5-10 centimeters का distance होना चाहिए. That is what near field communication is, as is very obvious from the word near in the word, right? Near field communication के नाम में near field है. So tapping your phone, right? जैसे अब नए phones में आ रहा है कि you can tap your phone और वो tap phone करके आपका data transmit हो जाता है and your payment is done. That is near field communication. ये भी RFID use करता है, ये दूसरा principle use करता है magnetic induction का. But there are some differences One major difference is that it happens at two-way level. Second major difference is that this is very short range as compared to RFID. You have to be almost in contact. RFID में तो 10-15 मीटर तक बात बन जाती थी, यहां just 10 centimeters at max. But it has to be mostly in contact. अब देखते हैं. First, let us see what the idea of magnetic induction is. Magnetic induction और electromagnetic induction, इसका आइडिया क्या है? Now you think about a diesel generator. ठीक है, डीजल जनरेटर में क्या होता है? डीजल जनरेटर में हम डीजल डालते हैं, घरों के टॉप पे या शादियों में यूज होता है, दिल्ली में बैन हो चुका है बिकॉज ऑफ पोल्यूशन. डीजल जनरेटर में व्हाट इज हैपनिंग? यू पुट डीजल इन इट एंड इट्स जनरेटिंग इलेक्ट्रिसिटी. सो इट इज कन्वर्टिंग डीजल दैट यू हैव पुट इन टू इलेक्ट्रिसिटी. नाउ हाउ डज इट डू दैट? उसके अंदर देयर आर मैग्नेट्स. It swings the magnets at very high speed. When it swings the magnet at very high speed, electricity is generated. When it swings the magnet at very high speed, diesel use करके, it swings the magnet at very high speed, that leads to generation of electricity. This is called electromagnetic induction. इसका उल्टा भी कर सकते हैं. If you use magnetic fields, you will generate electricity. If you use electricity, if you swing electricity, you will generate magnetic field. This is the idea of electromagnetic coupling. Diesel generator में हमने क्या किया? We put diesel in the engine. The engine then swings the magnet. Magnet swing होके electricity generate हुई. On the other side, I could have also changed electricity, fluctuated the electricity, turned it on and off rapidly, and that fluctuation of electricity would have led to the generation of magnetism. That is electromagnetic induction. This idea of electromagnetic induction is what NFC is using to communicate. Right? When electrons flow through a conductor, they create a magnetic field. When magnetic field change, they can cause electrons to flow through a conductor. Electrons flowing through a conductor is nothing but electricity. This idea is known as inductive coupling or electromagnetic induction. Okay. In NFC also, what is happening? That there is a mobile device. There is a mobile device or known as the active device. Its antenna releases a wave. Wave of what? Wave of magnetic field. So that generates electricity in the other side. You release a wave of magnetic field from your antenna or your phone, which is the active device. Then what happens on the other side? Because you have released the magnetic field, there electricity will be generated. Then the same thing happens in reverse. They also then release magnetic field, here electricity is generated. So there is two-way communication using the idea of electromagnetic induction or inductive coupling. So both ideas are used. RFID is also used and electromagnetic coupling is also used. As you can see here, the emitter will emit a field and data will travel both ways between the tag and the emitter. So in the case of NFC, different from RFID, there is two-way communication. Okay. But the range is very less. The range is very less because it operates on a very fixed band. It operates on a very fixed band. So either it has to be in contact or it has to be as close as 10 centimeter. RFID, as you can see here, RFID can work even up to the idea of 100 meters. RFID can work even to 100 meters. But this NFC is very close range technology. It can work only to the idea of 10 centimeter. Why? Because it needs two-way communication, not just one-way communication. Okay, so that is the idea of NFC and RFID. RFID can be used to track assets, to track cars, to do one-way communication, to do payments like FASTag. On NFC, what you can do is you can do peer-to-peer communication. That means you can make two phones talk to each other, right? You can make two phones talk to each other because there is two-way communication. You can also do card emulation. अब word breakdown करते हैं. What is emulation? Emulation is a sort of acting or sort of, showing something is like that without actually being it, right? So it's like emulating or in a disguise, or you can say becoming like a card. So your phone sort of becomes your debit or credit card. In that case, that is called the card emulation. Phone को card की तरह दिखाना, right? That you can do through the idea of NFC because there is two-way communication happening. Okay, but again, what is required? It is required that you are very close. So there are three technologies. The first is RFID. It is a wireless technology, of course, tags and readers, and the read distance, the distance through which it can communicate is large, and you do not need to be in the exact line of sight because it is happening through waves. One technology is QR code. In QR code, what you need is line of sight. You need to be directly scanning, looking at the QR code. Your camera needs to be looking at the QR code, only then the reading can happen. And the last is near field communication. Now in near field communication, what is happening, that there is a short range wireless technology, but something like this. You will need to touch the device. Only then this two-way communication will be happening. Okay. It transfers information quickly and easily with a single touch, or at max it can be at 10 centimeter. Now there is one more way communication happens between devices, that is called infrared. Infrared, I have already told you what infrared is when we were reading the spectrum, the electromagnetic spectrum, not the spectrum of modern history, right? When we were reading electromagnetic spectrum, we saw infrared waves, and infrared waves are used in remotes. So remotes are using infrared waves to communicate. And infrared is what? It is a line of sight technology. If your remote is blocked, or if it is not directly in line with the sensor, your remote does not work. तो आपने देखा होगा जब साइड से रिमोट यूज करते हैं कभी-कभी नहीं चलता, so you have to go directly like this and use it. So that is infrared technology. Okay, we'll continue with edge computing. देखो, now before understanding edge computing, let's understand what is cloud computing. Cloud computing, it's not a cloud like this that rains. Cloud computing is when you have data here that you take to a particular place or a particular server. At that place, the data is analyzed and it's brought back, right? Now, let's say you have data on two things that have to be communicated with. So what you do is you take the data to the server पे data analyze होगा and it comes back to your phone. For example, Google Drive is a cloud-based system. So if you have data on the cloud, like you have a Google Doc, it would be analyzed where? On the cloud, on the server where it is there, on Google server, and then brought back. If you have this communication happening that all the data first goes through a server, then comes back, this would be the idea of cloud computing. Now, as you can see, this would take some time. Let's say हमें Internet of Things है, and we have three things that are connected. If we want the data to first go there to the cloud, be processed on that server, and then come back, that would be called cloud computing. But मान लो मैं चाहता हूं कि ये डेटा एनालाइज और स्टोर लोकली ही हो जाए, rather than it goes to the cloud, goes where the server is, analyze there, then comes back. इससे better अगर हम डेटा एनालाइज कर लें locally, that would lead to less latency, right? Less delay. That would be the idea of edge computing. That data is localized and analyzed locally, rather than going to the cloud. I'm drawing cloud like this. It does not mean it's in the air. It's just a server. Okay, it's the server of whichever company or place where you are analyzing the data. So आप वहां भेजने से better, rather than let's say sending it to Apple's cloud, you analyze the data locally where it is being generated. That would be called edge computing. So the basic difference between edge computing and cloud computing lies in where the data processing ये कहां take place कर रही है. Where is it taking place? That would be the idea or the difference between edge computing or cloud computing. Of course, in edge computing, what would happen is that the latency would be less. So in cloud computing, it would mean storing and accessing data over the internet instead of your computer's hard drive, right? So अगर आपके पास कोई data है, आप उसे internet पे रखो and you store it and access it there, analyze it there. The best idea of this would be for you to understand a Google Drive. Google Drive is a cloud-based server. You are using Google server to store your data, right? A hardware or a non-online use of data would be just store it on your hard drive. What would edge computing be? You are managing massive amounts of data generated by Internet of Things devices by storing and processing it locally. Internet is being used, but you are not using a company's server. You are still doing the process locally, or it is called at the edge of a network. Right? At the edge of a network, आपने एक network बनाया हुआ है. There you are in the network itself, rather than going to a company's server or a centralized location. There you are using edge computing, or you are analyzing and storing the data there itself. That would be called edge computing, and the main advantage here is that the latency would be less. आपका डिले नहीं होगा बिकॉज यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू द क्लाउड, द डेटा इज नॉट गोइंग समवेयर, going to the server, not being analyzed and not coming back. It is happening right at the edge of the network. Okay. Now, what are the benefits? There is high speed, reduced latency, security is better because any single disruption cannot take down the network. It is happening locally. But if it happens at a cloud, the server of Google, let's say, or wherever you are analyzing it, that goes down, your internet will also, or your information will also be at risk. Right, and it is very important in the upcoming Internet of Things technology where we have to connect many devices together. So if earlier all the information was going to the server and then coming back, that would lead to certain latency. But here, if it is happening locally on the network, then it will not lead to that latency, and that is the idea of edge computing. Okay. Now, although मैंने यहाँ पे लिख दिया है, but I'll tell you about the fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution was basically steam engine or the spinning jenny, right? The second one was the discovery of and use of petrol and coal and the formation of steel using slag, coal, iron ore, etc. The third industrial revolution was when computers were used at a large scale and the digital revolution happened. The fourth industrial revolution is what we are living in today. The fourth industrial revolution is building on this third industrial revolution of computerization and digitization and getting new things like Internet of Things, big data analytics, cloud computing, 3D printing, artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, etc. Now, अगर आपसे क्वेश्चन पूछ लें on fourth IR कि fourth IR का किन किन चीजों पे impact है, the answer 99.9% is going to be all of the above. But again, you have to look at the present stage of development. That is a big hallmark. And the second one, you have to look कि कोई ऐसी बहुत ही weird सी चीज ना पूछ ली उन्होंने, right? So fourth industrial revolution में these are the new things that are happening: big data analytics, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, autonomous self-driving vehicles, Internet of Things. These are the ideas of fourth IR. Now, इसमें हमने एक टर्म देखी थी big data. अब देखो, आपने ये टर्म भी सुनी होगी आजकल दैट डेटा इज द न्यू ऑयल. ये बातें हम क्यों कह रहे हैं? व्हाई आर वी सेइंग दैट एंड व्हाट इज बिग डेटा एनालिटिक्स? सी, सो बिग डेटा एनालिटिक्स में क्या है दैट यू हैव ह्यूज डेटा सेट्स ऑफ व्हाट पीपल डू एंड व्हाट दे डोंट डू, एंड देन यू यूज दोस डेटा सेट्स टू टेलर योर पॉलिसी और टू टेलर एडवर्टाइजिंग और टू टेलर व्हाटएवर यू हैव टू टॉक टू देम अबाउट. जैसे मैं क्या आपको बताता हूं, मान लो आप फेसबुक यूज करते हो, right? And you are using Facebook. Facebook also has the data with regards to how much time you spend on every post before scrolling up. So let's say you spend more time on the posts where cricket is there and less time on the posts where music is being talked about or Bollywood is being talked about. So using big data analytics, taking all this small data, how much time did you spend on a particular post? How quickly do you scroll through a post when you are not interested? How quickly do you scroll through it when you are interested? When do you comment? When do you not comment? Using that data, what Facebook can do is, Facebook can analyze all these small data sets it's getting. It can put that data in one place. एक जगह पर वो data रख के वो सारा छोटा data जो वो आपका extract कर रहा है, उससे it can build a model of you, what you are interested in, what you like and what you don't like. मान लो आप क्रिकेट की पोस्ट को ज्यादा ध्यान से देखते हो, आप उन पेजेस को ज्यादा फॉलो करते हो, you are more likely to comment there. What does it mean? You are more interested in cricket. If you are more interested in cricket, you are more likely to buy cricketing items. So what they will do next? They will use that data that they have gotten, analyze it and show you more advertisements related to cricket and less advertisements related to music. This is basically the idea of big data analytics. Now, why the term big? Why is it different? Because the data set is huge. It is much more than what it used to be earlier. तो जो ट्रेडिशनल डेटाबेस होता था, ट्रेडिशनल रिलेशनल डेटाबेस होता था, उससे बहुत बियॉन्ड साइज का डेटा हम यूज कर रहे हैं. दैट इज व्हाई द आइडिया ऑफ बिग डेटा एनालिटिक्स, बिकॉज देयर इज वेरी लार्ज डाइवर्स डेटा सेट हियर एंड दिस इज बीइंग यूज्ड टू एनालाइज एंड लुक एट पीपल और मे बी लुक एट पॉलिसी और लुक एट गवर्नेंस. इसकी बहुत एप्लीकेशंस हैं एज यू कैन प्रॉब्ली फिगर आउट. इफ यू कैन टेक दिस डेटा फॉर इकोनॉमिक्स, जैसे मैं आपको मनरेगा की डिमांड बता रहा था, यू कैन टेक द डेटा कि मनरेगा की डिमांड बढ़ रही है. मनरेगा की डिमांड बढ़ रही है मतलब लोगों को अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट है, लोगों को अपनी जॉब्स में खुश नहीं है, फार्म लेबर इज डिस्ट्रेस्ड. So you can use that data to analyze कि यार next cycle में MSP बढ़ा दो, because people are moving away from the farms to the Unemployment Guarantee Act, and if Employment Guarantee Act की तरफ वो जा रहे हैं, मनरेगा की तरफ जा रहे हैं, that means there is farm distress. So using analytics at very huge data sets would be the idea of big data analytics, and this is a part of the fourth industrial revolution. अब इसमें जो चीज आपको पता रहनी चाहिए, there are 6 V's or sometimes 5 V's that are there with regards to big data. The first one is volume. Volume is huge. बहुत बड़ी volume है, बहुत ज्यादा information है. The second is velocity. The data is being generated very quickly also. The fact that you are watching this, right? चलो ये तो you're not watching it on a social media platform, but let's say you were watching this on YouTube. Even that data was being collected. मैं कभी आपको अपना YouTube studio from my own side दिखाऊंगा, from a creator's side. They collect everything. I can tell you exactly कि people who are aged 18 years in Lucknow, how many times they watch my videos and what is their attention span. They are even collecting that data, right? So the velocity of data collection is very high. एक second पे data collect हो रहा है, right? Third, there is huge value in this data. बहुत value है इस data का, बहुत uses हैं. Fourth is variability or variety. The fact that it is very variable. Lot of data sets are there. How much time is being spent? How quickly do you click? How much times do you click within the first second and then watch the complete video? How many times do you watch the video if there is an ad in the front or not? So there is a lot of variable data sets, right? And then there is veracity. Veracity means truthfulness, or in this case, the accuracy. So these are the 5 or the 6 V's. Some books have 5 V's, some have 6. These are the 6 V's that are connected to big data, and I think a question is likely here this time. तो ये 6 V's आपको पता होने चाहिए. अगर आपको मेरा YouTube का एग्जाम्पल देख के डर लग रहा है तो बिल्कुल लगना चाहिए. जब मैंने पहली बार YouTube स्टूडियो में देखा कि वो कितना डेटा कलेक्ट करते हैं, I paused my watch history, I paused my search history. I know YouTube is still collecting it, but I did what I can. Here are the advantages of big data use. It will improve the decision making. It will make you have better targeted marketing strategies. There will be cost and time reduction through streamlining of operations, right? So these are written here and I'm sure you can apply them. Government में क्या use होगा, education में क्या use होगा, health में क्या use होगा. There will be some use in everything. So I'm sure you can apply this. These are the advantages of big data analytics. Of course, there are some challenges like human resources are not there. There are privacy issues, security issues, ethical issues of collecting so much data, not having informed consent, right? All of this, these are the issues. Again, ये आप idea लगा लोगे. तो जब ऐसी चीजें हो, you can skip through them while you are reading. It's not important for you to mug all of this up because ये आपका idea लग जाएगा. जो 6 V's हैं, वो आप खुद से नहीं मिला पाओगे. So those are the things you need to focus on. Now let's come to the idea of 3D printing. ये काफी interesting चीज है. देखो, normally मान लो मुझे ये पेंसिल या स्टाइलस प्रिंट करना था, तो what I would do, let's say it is made of steel, so I would take a steel block like this and I would cut and get this pencil or this stylus like this, and the rest of the block will be discarded. This is how we are doing current manufacturing, where we are cutting the main raw material, or this is called subtractive manufacturing, where you are subtracting what you actually need from the bigger raw material. So now, through the idea of word breakdown, I'm sure it's clear to you that additive manufacturing would mean that I build this through layer by layer addition. जैसे मैं पहले इतना सा build करूं, then इतना सा, then इतना सा, then इतना सा, and then I make the whole thing. That exactly is what is additive manufacturing or 3D printing. It is a process where I join materials layer by layer to make objects, layer upon layer to make objects. It is different from the conventional manufacturing. 3D object is built from a computer assisted design model. In a computer I first designed this, then I in a 3D printer built it layer by layer. So इससे क्या होगा? The wastage would be very less. One more thing you need to know here is that there are certain techniques of 3D printing. ये terms please focus on them and you will have to mug them up because हम इसकी डिटेल में जा भी नहीं रहे. Just need to know power deposition, resin curing, filament fusing. These are some techniques of 3D printing when you are remembering these names, just know that they are associated with 3D printing. I have written them in the one pager also. They are associated with 3D printing. Some people are saying emerging technology part 1 pager is not visible. As soon as we take a break, I'll go check. Okay, I'll check. Don't worry, I have made it. It's been designed also. Everything is ready. शायद upload ना हुआ तो मैं देख लेता हूँ. वैसे if you refresh the portal, it must be there. Okay. So the addition of material can happen in multiple layers, namely power deposition, resin curing, filament fusing. These are some terms connected to 3D printing where I am making a layer by layer addition of design rather than a subtractive manufacturing. So obviously if you see the difference in traditional manufacturing versus additive manufacturing, traditional manufacturing would use a lot more of the material. There would be a lot of waste generated. Here there would not be waste generated and it would be a much more efficient process. Of course, it will be costly because the technology is new and difficult. It is easier to cut through something than to build it layer by layer. To build something layer by layer, you would require very high level of technology that you can have those many small layers there and then connect them together, right? Now, if you remember, we had read something called 4th generation nanosystems, or we had read something called bottom up approach of nanomaterials. In bottom up approach, what were we doing? We were taking devices that were even smaller than nanomaterials, maybe 10 raised to power minus 12, maybe 10 raised to power minus 15, and then connecting them to make nanomaterials. So that bottom up approach, or the 4th generation of nanomaterials, if you go back to the nanotech slide, you will see that wahan pe 3D printing is written, right? So when you are revising this course, you will find that a lot of places things will be connected from one place to the other. So जब आप finally revise करोगे, you will see these connections. 4th generation would be bottom top कि मैं और छोटी चीजों से build करूं nanomaterials rather than top bottom where I would go from a top big thing and cut it down into small things. So this top bottom approach would be what? It would be traditional manufacturing. Bottom up approach would be taking something that's even smaller than nanomaterials and building nanomaterials from it. And if you look at those slides, in 4th generation and in bottom up approach, I have mentioned the word 3D printing. I had not taught you it then, but ab aapko I think samajh aa gaya. So with a 3D printer, you could, let's say, design a whistle in a computer and then make it through a printer. जैसे normal printer दिखता है, उसमें paper जाता है. In a 3D printer, you input plastic or whatever material you want to use, and then it would, you through that computer assisted design, you would take the plastic layer by layer, it would build the whistle and get it back. Just a printer prints on paper, it would print in a 3D manner. So you could print 3D objects. And how are you doing it? Layer upon layer using a computer assisted design model. So this is the basic process. You take a 3D model, you then slice it using a slicing software. तो आपके ऐसे layers and slicing बन जाती है, and then it is manufactured using this layered process and the final product is there. Now, of course, there are some benefits that it's low cost, the efficiency is better, you can customize more, there will be reduced wastage, etc. And there are certain disadvantages that the raw materials are limited, it will destroy the traditional manufacturing industry. You could also make dangerous items, you could infringe on copyrights of people using 3D printers and nobody would find out अगर आप सिर्फ खुद के लिए use कर रहे हो. So these are the issues. Okay, now let's come to the idea of software as a service. Okay, पहले हम समझते हैं what a service is. What I am giving to you right now is a service. There is no product here. If I was to give you medical consultation, you came to me and you said, you know, I have this disease and I gave you some prescription, that would be a service. If you went to a pharmacist and you said, here is the prescription, please give me medicine, he would give you medicine which is goods. आपने पढ़ा भी होगा goods and service tax. It is called one nation one tax because on goods as well as on service we put the same tax, right? So here what we are doing is we are giving you software as a service. Ideally or initially what used to happen was, जैसे मान लो आपने Microsoft Office खरीदा or let's say you buy PowerPoint, you used to get a CD or let's say you used to download it off the internet that this is Microsoft PowerPoint 2007. So that was a product. You took a product called PowerPoint 2007, installed it on your computer and started using it, right? Now that product is there with you. इसमें कोई update हुई, क्या हुआ, that would happen and you have it as a product, right? But you have to install it, you have to configure it, you have to see that it's working. Now what is happening is you are being given Google Slides, Google Docs, Office 365, Gmail. ये भी सारे सॉफ्टवेयर है, but they are not products. They are not meant for you to be installed. They are being given to you as a service. It is an email service that Gmail gives you. If you make a Gmail work business account, right, you would get Gmail service where Gmail would get you the email. आपको email मिल जाएगा. It would be, you would be charged for some particular thing. You don't have to install it, configure it, look at के मेरा system requirements meet हो रहा है या नहीं. The software has to be given to you, has been given to you as a service. You just use what is there. आप customize करो, आप अपना inbox किसी और color का रखो, you customize the labels, you make different folders, but you don't have to configure the installation, you don't have to buy a CD, or you don't have to check your system requirements, etc. Whatever things have to happen in the background, the company does it. Right? Gmail के background में जो हो रहा है, that you don't have to worry about. So that is the idea of software as a service. It is an on-demand access to an application software, usually on the basis of a subscription fees, like Office 365 or Gmail Business. Right? For example, when you use Google Docs to edit a document, you do not need to worry about the installation. You do not need to worry about the configuration. Right? User is charged per usage and can eliminate the need of huge investment upfront. आपको सारे सॉफ्टवेयर खरीदने की जरूरत नहीं है. You would just be charged for what you use. That is the idea of software as a service. The examples are Dropbox, Outlook, Gmail. Now this is free for us to use if we are using it at a personal level. But how does Gmail make money? When you want to make a Gmail account for yourself, for your business, right? For example, the email address here is ask@sarrthi.com. ये क्या है? This is actually they are using Gmail in the background. When you look at this email, when Sarrthi looks at this email, they see Gmail only, right? But you get to see this because this is Gmail business. So you pay for this service. So this is the software being offered as a service. And of course, as you can see here, you can customize the user interface and the labels, right? This is the idea of software as a service. Okay. Moving on now to the last 2 or 3 concepts we have to see in emerging tech. The first is digital signature. Now, digital signature is similar to a signature done on paper, but it's done digitally. How? We'll see. पहले हम देखते हैं what is the idea of a physical signature. A physical signature on a particular paper or a document, it makes sure that the document has come from a trusted person. Like if I have signed a paper, you can say that, okay, this has come from Shivin. Okay, that is a physical signature. Now, how do I ensure that digitally? The process of ensuring that digitally is done through a digital signature. So on a digital signature, what is done? It is a way to ensure integrity of data recorded where? Recorded on a blockchain or recorded digitally, and akin to a physical signature on paper, digital signature is for digital documents. It binds a person or an entity to a digital document. If there is a digital document or some digital information, how will you make sure it has come from the person who says it has come from? अगर मैं कहता हूं कि ये digital document है, ये शिवन ने बनाया है, how will you prove that? The way to prove that is through a digital signature. And how does it work? Let's see. Let's say this is me and this is you. Okay, now I want to give you a particular document. Now this document is digitally made. Okay, now if I want to give this to you, if I just transmit to you, it would be possible that it can be hacked. So I have to cryptographically put it, I have to encrypt it, and then later you must be able to see that, okay, it has come from Shivin. So the first thing I can do is I put it through a hash algorithm. Or जैसे हम hash algorithm क्या है? We have seen this in blockchain. I put it through a hash algorithm or a cryptography, and I get a digest. Now a digest would be what happens once the document is put through a hash algorithm. You get a digest. Then I put it through a private key. Now we have read 2 terms, public key and private key. We have read this also in blockchain. In public key, the information is available to everyone. So it will be a letter, it will be a set of numbers and letters that is available to everyone. Private key is always private. Private key is only accessible to me, right? And as we read, from private key the public key can be derived, but not the other way around. Okay. So I have this document. First I put it through a hash algorithm. I got a digest. Then the digest I put through a private key. And finally it led to the digital signature. Now the private key, as we know, is linked to the public key in some way. Okay. Now what you get is just this digital signature, just this, right? And you must get the document back and you must be sure कि ये जो मैं भेजा है, this has come from me only. How would that be done? For that, you must have realized now that this digital signature is dependent on two things. Firstly, what did I do? I put the document through a hash algorithm. So digital signature का content is dependent on one, what the actual content is, and two, what my private key is. Document को मैंने hash algorithm में डाला, I got a digest, then I put that into a private key and I got the digital signature. So a digital signature is a combination of the document and the author's private key. You here who need this information, you here have access to my public key. So you know what my public key is and you know which hash algorithm I used. You have access to my public key and you know what hash algorithm I used. So when you get this document, you use the public key, right? You have this public key here. You have the public key. So you use the public key and you use the hash algorithm to get back to the exact same document. If there was any change along the way, if the document was changed along the way, or if my private key was changed, the digital signature would change completely and you would know that the document has been tampered with. It's not the real document because the public key is somehow linked to the private key, right? You can think of it as an email and a password, but somehow linked to each other. When you enter my public key and when you enter the hash algorithm that I have used, you will get back to the document that I had sent. And if the digital signature is altered in some way, कहीं किसी ने उसमें interference कर ली, somebody is trying to spoof who I am, they don't use my private key, they use some other private key, then when you use this public key, which is my public key, you will not get access. To give you an example, you get a document. If it has been made by me, once you put the hash algorithm and you put my email address, which I will not say out loud, if you put my email address and you put the hash algorithm, you will get the actual document. Okay. If you put somebody else's public key or if the document was made by someone else, you would not get the same document. I'll just give this to you in an example. This is me, okay, and this is Varun sir. This is Varun sir, and this is me. Now my email ID is x@y.com. So let's say this is my public key. Okay. Now let's say I give you a particular document. When I am giving you this document, I have signed it with my private key, which is my password to that email, which they are somehow linked. How doesn't matter. And what I will do is I will give you the hash algorithm. These are the two things I have used to encrypt this document to make a digital signature. When you get it, right? When you get it, if you put x@y.com and you use the hash algorithm, if this document has come from me, it will become clear to you, okay? It will be unchanged and visible to you. But let's say Varun sir's email ID is z@a.com. Here, if you put z@a.com and the hash algorithm, then the document will not be visible because I was the creator, not Varun sir. So only when you input my email or my public key and my hash or the hash that I'm using, only then you will get the document. So my identity is now tied to the document. So it's like I have signed the document but signed it digitally. This is what a digital signature is. Now this has a certain problem, right? What is happening is that there is verification by the public key and the hash algorithm that the document has not been altered. But you have no idea about the true identity of the sender. Let's say when I was sending you this document, somebody stops the document in between and sends you a different document. But you don't have access to my public key. They send you a public key alongside with it because a public key is not as simple as an email. It is a very complex number which you can't get like that. So what will happen is the true identity of the sender depends on the public key which is publicly available. Right? So if someone stops that, hacks the document, sends a different document and says this is the public key and this is Shivin's public key. नाम नहीं है public key में, so you will think okay, then you will use that public key and you will think the document has come from me. This is the main problem in using a digital signature, because the origination of the public key is not clear. To solve that problem, there is something called a digital certificate. A digital certificate is issued by a trusted third party. Okay, so in the original example here, let's say somebody was to stop this document and send you something different, and then also send you, okay, you take my public key and use it, but this is actually Shivin's public key. So you will not know that it has come from me or come from them. But then what I do is I take Varun sir, who is a trusted third party, and he gives you a certificate saying that this is the document, this is my public key, this is Shivin's public key, and Shivin owns this public key, and I am trusting this to you. Then that would be a digital certificate. A third party using or giving you a certificate of trust to establish the identity. For example, if I give you my passport and tell you, look at my passport, I'm Shivin. You trust the authority that has issued that passport. You trust the government of India, and that is why you believe it. कि हाँ यार government ने लिखा है तो सही लिखा होगा. So same thing being done digitally is a digital certificate. It is electronic credentials issued by a trusted third party. So it not only verifies the identity of the owner, but it also verifies that the public key that you are getting is coming from the owner. अगर ये समझ नहीं आ रहा है, it's absolutely not important in this detail. If you just understand that digital signature is binding the identity and digital certificate is a third party verifying that हाँ identity सही है. This much is enough. Don't need to go in this much detail, but I have a habit of explaining things in detail, so that's why I have done it. इसके beyond नहीं जाने की जरूरत. That a digital signature is tying me to a document, and a digital certificate is a third party authority that issues a certificate saying कि हाँ यार ये यही बंदा है and the public key is right. For example, the government of India is the trusted third party in the case of a passport, right? Okay, so the trusted third party issues the digital certificate. You trust my passport issuer, so you trust my passport and my identity written on it. Similar thing done digitally is a digital certificate. Okay, all right. Next idea we have to study is eSIM. This I will just tell you what it is and then you can read it from the slide. Normally क्या होता है कि हम फोन में SIM डालते हैं, so there is a hole in the phone where the SIM is put. अगर SIM जो है, SIM में क्या है यार? SIM में basically आपके नंबर की information है, nothing else. So what an eSIM is? eSIM is embedding that information in the motherboard of your phone. आपके motherboard में phone के वो information embedded है, तो आपको कोई अलग से वो नहीं डालना. You don't have to put the SIM from inside. That information of a number is inside your phone. It is already embedded in your phone. तो इससे फायदा क्या होगा? मान लो आपका फोन चोरी हो गया एंड आपने अपना फोन ब्लॉक करवा दिया, or you gave the IMEI number to the police, or you used Find My iPhone and you said that okay, it's blocked. Nobody can take the SIM out and use it. This is one advantage. The other advantage is that your phone will have one less opening, right? One less opening where things have to be put. So one less area for water to enter, for dust to enter, right? These are some advantages. It is basically an embedded SIM. It is the same hardware of a regular SIM card, जो उसका chip होता है, but it is permanently embedded as a part of the motherboard of the device, right? Now you can just read this. कुछ खास information यहाँ पे है नहीं. Benefits are that you can have convenience, there will be security, one less opening in your phone, and some challenges are there would be some emergency. Then let's say your phone is cracked, you can't take your SIM out and use it in a different phone, right? Some countries do not support eSIM yet. India does, by the way, and it is only available in premium support. So in India, the eSIM currently is only available mostly on Apple phones. Okay. Second thing we have to read now is direct to mobile. Again, we just have to understand what this means. ये पता है सबको? DTH. DTH stands for direct to home. What are we doing? We are basically transmitting satellite information directly to your home. So you're getting the TV directly to your home without the middleman of a cable company, right? तो कोई केबल कंपनी नहीं है. सैटेलाइट एंटेना आपके फोन, आपके रूफ पे वो एंटेना डिश लगी है जहां पर वो इंफॉर्मेशन आती है टीवी की. सो डायरेक्टली इट इज कमिंग थ्रू योर होम. दैट इज DTH TV. DTM is direct to mobile. that you get this same information, ये जो टीवी की सैटेलाइट ब्रॉडकास्ट है ये आपके फोन पे आ जाए। अब जो आपका टाटा स्काई है उसमें भी एक चिप है, उसमें एक रिसीवर है, वो चिप और रिसीवर में अगर आपके फोन में लगा दूं दैट वुड बी D2M। सो यू वुड बी एबल टू वॉच टीवी ऑन योर फोन विदाउट द यूज ऑफ द इंटरनेट, क्योंकि टाटा स्काई में इंटरनेट तो लग नहीं रहा, राइट? इट इज जस्ट हैपनिंग थ्रू अ communication is happening only through a dish that is there on your roof. So if a miniaturized version of this dish was put on your phone and you are able to get it directly on your phone, that would be the idea of direct to mobile. अब इसके क्या advantages and disadvantages हैं, this you can just read. It is basically broadcasting TV satellite directly to your phone. कुछ खास नहीं है, I would just recommend that you read it once. जितना मैंने आपको बता दिया उससे ज्यादा आपको जानने की जरूरत नहीं है इसमें. If you just do word association, that much is enough. If you're still curious, just read the slides once. Nothing new or very different is written here. Okay. The third technology that we have to use, again, read word association, is CRIS-XPP. In CRIS-XPP, what is done is that researchers from IIT Kharagpur, right, in collaboration with the Indo-Korea Science and Technology Center, what they have done is that they have trained an artificially intelligent machine through the idea of machine learning. So they've used machine learning to train a particular a device or an AI device to predict what the material properties of anything would be. That if I get a new material, what would be its properties? Right? उसे क्या किया, हमने बहुत सारे materials दिखाए. We showed it 10,000 or let's say 10 crore materials and told it, okay, this material has this property, this material has this property. So it got trained on the idea of material property analysis. It could pick up patterns of material property analysis. So now when I show it a new material, it is able to predict what its properties would be on the basis of its pattern analysis. That is what AI does, and this is the idea of using AI for that. So CRIS-XPP, just remember, machine learning for material property analysis. How does it work? Just refer to neural networks, how neural networks work, how pattern analysis happens. So it has been trained on the data set of many materials. उसे हमने 10 करोड़ material दिखा दिए. Now it knows what the properties are, and when it gets a new material, it's able to predict. So when I get a new material, I don't have to look at it in detail. I don't have to break it down. I don't have to do scientific analysis. This prediction would give me a basic idea of what that material looks like. Okay. Now, next idea is Web 5.0. We have read Web 3.0, we have read Web 2.0, we have read Web 1.0. Web 5.0 is an idea given by former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, where he says it is a mixture between Web 2.0 and Web 3.0. Therefore, the word Web 5.0. It is a mixture between Web 2.0 and 3.0. What was Web 2.0? It was targeted advertising. Facebook is different for all of us. What is Web 3.0? It is blockchain based technology. So Web 5.0 is mixture between these two, adding both the features, right? Some features of this, some of that. That's all you need to know. Okay. There is also an idea called Web 4.0 or the mobile web. It is a work in progress, but I read up a lot on it, and what I could get is that there is no clear understanding of what it would entail. Right now, nobody knows what Web 4.0 is going to be. It's just called the mobile web. Web 1.0 we know, Web 2.0 we know, Web 3.0 we know, and Web 5.0 is a mixture between 2 and 3. Okay. Now there are two topics here, geospatial data, and the other topic is the National Data Governance Policy. This I am not teaching because it's very, very basic. You just have to read the slide. There's nothing new. इसमें बस ये बताया है कि they have made some new institutions. There is a new governance framework. Data को ऐसे रखेंगे. Private entities can join if they want to. There is no conceptual thing here. So this one thing I am not teaching. I would just expect you to read it on your own. It's very basic. Nothing that you will not understand if you read it on your own. Last thing that we have to do is facial recognition technologies. Now, how does facial recognition technology work? Facial recognition technology में हो क्या रहा है? That you capture the face of a person or through a camera, CCTV, etc. And then you are able to analyze who this person is. So what it does is, it captures your face or it captures a photo of your face. It analyzes some particular points on your face For example, it will analyze, let's say it's analyzing my face, so it will analyze chin, cheekbone, lip, the bend of the lip, right? So it has particular points on the face that it's going to analyze. Now those particular points it will analyze and it will put that in some numerical value, like it will make numbers out of it. So it will be a numerical value. That numerical value will be called your face print. I will just show you that particular value. It will identify you how, because it will take certain unique facial landmarks. Let's say what is the angle of your chin, what is the dip of your lip, how high are your zygomatic arches, where do your eyes meet close to your nose, things like that. So it will take unique facial landmarks, ऐसी चीजें जो सबके लिए अलग होती हैं, वैसे वैसे facial landmarks लेगा, जैसे कि cheek bones, contours of lips, and convert these into a numerical code called a face print. Then you will have a numerical code for everybody's face. अब आपने उसने आपका डेटा ले लिया, राइट? जैसे मान लो आधार में आपकी फोटो खींची. This does not happen. I'm hoping this does not happen, but it's possible. I hope Aadhaar data is kept private, but it's possible that they took your photo in Aadhaar. Now when they've taken your photo, they've made a face print for you. Now when you are, let's say, doing a crime, or you are there and the CCTV captures you, it will capture your photo, compare your face print to what is there in your Aadhaar biometric data and compare. That is how facial recognition system technology works, right? What the government is doing now in facial recognition is, there is a new initiative called Digi Yatra, and in the comments you can tell me what Digi Yatra is about, right? This is economy, so I'm not explaining here. Digi, although it's written in the slide, right? So Digi Yatra, for this they are using facial recognition technology so that travel could be made more seamlessly done, right? I've told you what it is. Basically it's airports पे they would let you go and come easily. आपको wait नहीं करना पड़ेगा for recognition for people. अभी airport पे जाते हैं तो क्या होता है? First someone sees your Aadhaar, then they see your face, then they check अच्छा यही बंदा है या नहीं. But if you have this technology, the process would be much faster, especially when you have seen how our airports are now getting more and more busy. For this Digi Yatra initiative has been started, and it uses the facial recognition system. Now, what are some other things that could be used to identify you other than your face? So first, there are some behavioral identifiers. How you behave. For example, the way you type. What is your typing speed? Which letters do you generally mess up when typing? When do you press backspace? That could be a way to identify you. How you navigate. Where you drive every day. From that data, you could be identified. What is your physical style? Do you hold your phone like this or like this? This is one way of identifying you. Then there are some physical identifiers. That could be your fingerprint, your voice recognition, your facial recognition, your eye scan, things that Aadhaar takes to recognize you, right? And then there could be chemical identifiers, like your DNA. Your DNA is a chemical that identifies you, or a chemical identifier is a vein recognition. The pattern of veins on your hand, like you can see probably here, the pattern of veins is unique for everybody when done at a microchemical analysis. ऊपर से same दिखेगा, but at a microchemical analysis it's different for everyone. So even this could be used to identify you, right? Last thing we have to study is India stack. A stack क्या होता है? Stack is one thing, right? India stack is a collection of open source APIs. Open source technology means that the code is openly available. Openly available code is there. So there is open source, openly available API. API stands for Application Programming Interface, right? Application Programming Interface, that things that help you program a particular application. Things like mAadhaar, UPI, Cowin, DigiLocker, Arogya Setu, eSanjeevani, Umang, Diksha app. All of these are Indian made applications used for digital transformation. आप सोचो, in Western countries people are taking slips and saying, this is my vaccine certificate, and in India we have it on our phones. What we have done in the second wave of COVID is the biggest digital transformation the world has ever seen, where we have put devices from your identification to your COVID vaccination certificate, to your car's information, to your education, to things through Umang where you would get governance services, to even contract tracing of COVID on your phone. This digital transformation during COVID is the first of 8 of India's G20 priorities to show the world that we have done a digital transformation, come to India and invest here. Invest in the technologies that we have made. This group of technologies, all these technologies, use of UPI, which now Singapore is also doing. Now we have a collaboration with PayNow. It is handling 4 billion rupees every day. This digital transformation that we have done, all of these APIs put together are called the India Stack. Very likely this year, because it is a huge priority of our G20 initiative. The Honorable Prime Minister, and remember, you always have to address him like that. And the Honorable Prime Minister has said that if we are able to show the world the potential of India's digital transformation, it will not only earn us foreign exchange, but make us a global player on the world stage. This India Stack is where we end our lecture on emerging technologies. We will now move on to the Nobel Prizes that have been given this year, the remaining topics of space and health and IPR. Here, UPSC has never asked, or for a very long time has not asked any question about Indian scientists, right? That they have asked in the mains. So ये हम तब करेंगे when we are doing the mains. But अभी what mainly we have to do are the Nobel Prizes that have been awarded this year, and this is very, very important because these questions are very likely on the Nobel Prize. So on role of scientists, we're first going to study the 3 main Nobel Prizes that have been given: one for chemistry, one for physics, and one for physiology or medicine. Okay, so the first Nobel Prize that was given for chemistry in 2022 was on something called click chemistry. अब हम ये समझते हैं ये है क्या. देखो, पहले हम समझते हैं something called polymer. ये हम वैसे पहले भी समझ चुके हैं. Polymer में क्या होता है? Poly means many. So जैसे polyethylene, right? तो polyethylene में क्या होता है? बहुत parts of ethene are present. When you put too many parts of ethene together, it will form polythene. Polythene is what we use. अब ये जो ऐसे पॉलीमर थे which were biological compounds, जैसे एंटीबायोटिक्स कई सारी ऐसे थी, right? The polymer that had these biological compounds, they were referred to as biomolecule or biopolymer. So when we were making biopolymer earlier, what we were doing is we were trying to artificially copy the natural process. If there is a natural process, what is happening in the natural process, the biomolecule is being made in the body. ऐसा मिलके, जैसे protein is a biomolecule made of many amino acids together. This we have read. So ये जैसा, if we were trying to make that thing artificially, we were trying to copy the process that was happening in the body. होता क्या था कि body में तो the process was very efficient, because मान लो ये final product ऐसा बनाना है, तो it would form like this. पहले A बनेगा, फिर B, फिर C, and C would form finally lead to D, which is the final process. Body में ये product हो रहा था. Body में क्या था कि B का कोई specific use था, C का कोई specific use था, right? But when we were copying this outside, वही चीज हो रही थी, A से B, B से C, C से D, but हमारे पास B और C का कोई use नहीं था. So what was happening is we were generating a lot of waste products. Very unwanted intermediate products were being generated, right? And the process was becoming expensive because these products we had no use for them. ये बने तो जा रहे थे और हमें इनका कोई काम नहीं था, हमें फाइनल डी से ही काम था. So what we needed is we needed a way that would link these things together, link these products together, rather than copying what was happening naturally. जो natural process था A to B, B to C, C to D, अगर हम उसको कॉपी करते तो B और C भी बनता, जिसका हमें कोई यूज नहीं है. बॉडी को यूज है तो बॉडी बनाती है, बट हम नेचुरल को कॉपी करते तो ये फालतू की चीजें बनती, which was wasting our time, wasting our energy and making these intermediates. So we needed a way to find and get a way to click these things together to make biomolecules or polymers without going through this process. This idea of getting these things clicked together without going through this process of copying biomolecules is what is called click chemistry. This award has been given to these scientists, Caroline Bertozzi, Morton Meldon and K. Barry Sharpless. K. Barry Sharpless के बारे में एक स्पेशल बात है, आपको अभी बताऊंगा, राइट? तो पहले क्या हो रहा था, when we were imitating natural molecules, right, it was very difficult to produce on a large scale. For example, this antibiotic called meropenem, which was naturally found in some organism, were not important. जब इसको हम industrially produce करते थे, तो it took us 6 years to find the actual way, and तब भी it was very very difficult. Then we came up with something like this. हमने सोचा यार जैसे ये बेल्ट बकल में क्लिक नहीं हो जाती जो चीजें, अगर हम ऐसा कुछ क्लिक करने वाला ढूंढ लें in chemistry, where we could, we don't have to imitate the natural process, we could just join these two things by clicking them together. That would be click chemistry. Finding a way to make these biomolecules without imitating the natural process. अब ये click कैसे हो रहा है? What are the components of this belt buckle? How this click happens? इसके लिए इस साल नोबेल प्राइज अलाउड हुआ है. So what is happening is, एक साइड पे हम ऐसा ग्रुप लगाते हैं, मान लो ये कार्बन के कोई कंपाउंड चल रहा है, we have seen like this before also in fact. So we make a group like this, which is nitrogen, nitrogen, nitrogen. It looks like this. Okay, here this nitrogen has a positive charge, this has a negative charge. How doesn't matter. So we make something like this. This is what is called an azide group. ऐसे जो ये 3 नाइट्रोजन वाला अरेंजमेंट है, इसको हम कहते हैं azide. So one side we have azide group, the other side we have alkyne. Alkyne is when carbon has 3 bonds like this with another carbon. So there on one side there was alkyne, on one side there was azide. When we brought them together in the presence of copper ion, they form something called a triazole or a cyclic compound that looks like this. A cyclic compound that looks like this, right? This is a triazole. देख रहे हो alkyne के 3 N है and यहाँ carbon is there. So what we learnt is that if on any molecule, any XYZ molecule, उधर कुछ भी हो, towards one end I attach azide, then any XYZ molecule, toward one end I attach alkyne. When I bring them together in the presence of copper ions, they sort of click together. This click happens how? In this form. So now this form is what? Triazole. So now I found a way to link two molecules together without doing all of that charade of copying biological reaction. This would be called click chemistry. Forming this triazole in the presence of copper with the reaction of azide and alkyne is click chemistry, and now I can make molecules joining together. This is click chemistry. For this the Nobel Prize has been awarded this year. So rather than trying to make carbon atoms react with each other, जो हम original process में कर रहे थे, where we were getting carbon atoms to react, click chemistry focuses on smaller molecules that already have a complete carbon frame, and then I link them. And one of the most important such reaction is copper catalyzed. Why copper is called to catalyze here? Because copper is just helping the reaction take place. Copper is not actually participating. It is just making sure that the reaction happens. So copper catalyzed, copper is acting like an enzyme here. So copper catalyzed, azide alkyne, one side azide, one side alkyne, cycloaddition, because what finally gets made? A cyclic compound like this. Copper catalyzed azide alkyne cycloaddition. This is the most important click reaction we have found, and for this the Nobel Prize has been given, because now when we have to make biomolecules we can make like this. Now there was a third scientist, right? Caroline Bertozzi. बाकी दोनों K. Barry Sharpless and Mr. Medal, they were given for this click chemistry. Caroline Bertozzi has been given the Nobel Prize for bioorthogonal chemistry. अब ये क्या है? Bioorthogonal chemistry क्या है? It is using this click chemistry only, but using them inside living organisms. अब living organisms के अंदर difference क्या है? Living organisms में you can't use copper ions because copper ions are toxic. If you give copper ions near a cell, the cell will die, right? Copper ions are cytotoxic. So a different process was needed. Inside, if I had to do this click reaction inside a living organism, why am I doing it? I'll show you. So inside a living organism, what had to be done for this click reaction is bioorthogonal chemistry. Similar thing, but done in a different way because I could not use copper, right? So what is happening here is it is helping us tag glycans with fluorescent dyes. I'll tell you what. So this is Caroline Bertozzi, and she was given this award. What she has done is this. Now there is a cell membrane in every cell. There is a nucleus. There is a cytoplasm. Glycans are glycoproteins, or glycans are present on the cell membrane. They are like this. On the cell membrane they are present. So here if I want to attach, let's say this is a glycan of the cell. Here if I want to attach something, let's say I want to attach a fluorescent dye, something that shines fluorescently on a microscope. If I'm able to attach something fluorescently here on the cell membrane, when I look at the cell on the microscope, I will get to see something like this. This picture is from Caroline Bertozzi's her own paper, her own scientific paper that she has written. So what we have done here, to identify the cell membrane properly, we have attached to the glycan some fluorescent molecule that looks fluorescent on the microscope. So on microscope, cell membrane will be visible very clearly. Cell nucleus will be visible very clearly, and it will of course help me in doing better research. So here what she did was, she found that rather than using copper, there was a different method to do this. Similar reaction could be done differently. It's called using strained alkynes. That's not important. Similar reaction she was able to do without copper inside living cell with the attachment of glycans. So this was called bioorthogonal chemistry that was used to illuminate the cell. Right? Here, as you can see, the cell is illuminated because I am able to tag a fluorescent molecule to the cell membrane. Okay, this is bioorthogonal reaction. So this is the reason these people were given the Nobel Prize in Chemistry this year. Now, what are the applications? Of course, if I have to develop pharmaceuticals, not inside the body, normally if I have to develop antibiotics that are like this, I will put azide on one side, I will put alkyne on one side, I will take copper ions and connect them. So development of pharmaceuticals, herbicides, photostabilizers, fertilizers, etc., that can be used in chemistry. Second, if I want to visualize the cell better, if I want to look at complex biological processes like how DNA interacts with the cell membrane, how DNA enters the cell, exits the cell, what is happening, for that I need a fluorescent marker. Only when it is fluorescent can I see it better on a microscope. Like in this case, here if I am able to attach a fluorescent molecule, how better would be my visualization? Kitna badhiya dikhega cell, right? It's so easy to see it. So to understand complex processes like DNA formation, how new cells are forming, how new cells are functioning, I could use bioorthogonal chemistry. Then there is targeted drug delivery for cancer cells. How? Let's say there are some particular cancer cells and they have some special form of glycans that are not there on different cells. So I could make something that would go and click to this, and then that would deliver the drug. Just the idea is important. You don't need to think in detail. But if the cancer cells have some specific glycans, I could make something that would click to that particular glycan and then deliver the drug. So that would be targeted cancer drug delivery, and trials are already on for that. For this also I could use bioorthogonal chemistry. So it's basically a clicking mechanism at the chemical level, also called click chemistry, and this is why the Nobel Prize has been given in chemistry. Now let's understand the Nobel Prize that is given in physics. This I don't have to explain to you because the Nobel Prize in physics this year, given to Alain Aspect, Jean F. Clauser and Anton Zeilinger, has been given for the idea of quantum entanglement. The idea of quantum entanglement, and this we have already read. We already know what is quantum entanglement, right? So if we already know what is quantum entanglement, we don't have to worry, right? What they have basically said, I hope you remember quantum entanglement. I had given you the example of two McVeggie burgers, one McVeggie and McChicken, but put in the same box. So despite of the distance between the two particles, kitne bhi door ho jaye, they become super linked to each other. They become linked to each other. That is quantum entanglement. So if I change or I measure the quantum state of one particle, it will automatically lead to a measurement of the other particle regardless of the distance between them. Like we had seen, if there is one box on Earth and the other one is sent to the Andromeda galaxy, I open the first box, I will instantly know what is in the second box regardless of the distance between them. That was quantum entanglement, hum pad chuke hain. इसी के लिए to prove it mathematically that this thing can happen, the award has been given this year. So this year quantum computing is very important. So please revise it properly, right? You don't have to understand how superposition and entanglement works, but you need to know that superposition and entanglement are connected with quantum computing. Okay. Now, other than this quantum entanglement, they have demonstrated three other things. Firstly, they have done some theoretical work on Bell inequalities. Now, what is Bell inequalities? J.S. Bell, Mr. J.S. Bell was a scientist who in the 1960s made some assumptions and some theoretical formula, mathematical formula on quantum entanglement. Using them, they have proved that quantum entanglement can happen mathematically. What did Einstein say? Einstein said spooky effects at a distance, right? Remember that video. So Einstein has sort of been proved wrong with this because they have theoretically proved that quantum entanglement can happen. It is nothing spooky and it does exist, even though they don't understand why it is happening. Nobody knows why it's happening, but it can happen. It has been proved mathematically, and this was the first work, Bell inequalities. The other two things are quantum teleportation and quantum entanglement swapping, right? Now let's see what they are. First, let's see quantum entanglement swapping, then we will see quantum teleportation. Quantum entanglement swapping. Okay, let's say there were two particles, 1 and 2. Again, देखो अगर ये ज्यादा समझ नहीं आता, just the name is enough. Okay, नहीं समझ आ रहा है तो the name is enough. This definitely will not be asked in this much detail. But still, for your curiosity, let's say there are two particles, 1 and 2. The first is sent like this, the second is sent like this, and they are entangled to each other. Now, regardless of what the distance is between 1 and 2, they are entangled. There are two other particles, 3 and 4. 3 and 4 are also entangled to each other. So they are sent also in two different directions. Right now, 1 and 2 are entangled, 3 and 4 are entangled. Now what I do is I bring 2 and 3 together. In some special way, I bring 2 and 3 together and I entangle them. Originally, 1 and 2 were entangled, 3 and 4 were entangled. What I did is, I brought 2 and 3 together and brought them close and entangled them. If I do this, 1 and 4 will also get entangled. How? Nobody knows. Nobody knows how this happens. Okay. But if I bring 2 and 3 together, I establish a linkage, 1 and 4 also get entangled. How? Nobody knows. Just need to know this phenomena is called entanglement swapping. I have swapped the entanglement between 1 and 2, the super linkage between 1 and 2 to 1 and 4. That's it. Don't go into its depth. If you just understand there is an idea called quantum entanglement swapping, that's it. Now, the other idea is called quantum teleportation. It's even more difficult to explain, but I'll try. What is happening here is, let's say there are two particles, A and B, and they are entangled, right? They are at a very large distance, they are entangled. If I measure this, if this is up, this will be down. If I measure this, if this is down, this will be up. What I did is, I brought a third particle C close to A and I entangled A and C. I brought a third particle close to A, I entangled A and C, and then using this property of entanglement, I transferred the information of C to the information of B. How? Doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter how I am able to do this. The fact that it's possible is what matters. Again, there are two particles A and B. They are entangled. I bring C close to A, entangle A with C, and then using the earlier entanglement of A and B, I transfer C's information to B. Since they are at a long distance and still their information is going, which information is going? The quantum state. The quantum state like upspin, downspin, the superposition. The quantum state is being transferred at a huge distance. This is why it's called quantum teleportation. If you are not understanding this, it's totally fine. Just know that through entanglement, I am transferring one information from one place to the other place. You just have to understand entanglement, and that we have discussed in a lot of detail. Okay. So they have done three things other than demonstrating quantum entanglement. One, they have done quantum teleportation. Second, they have done quantum entanglement swapping. Third, they have worked on Bell inequalities. Okay, this is it. This is why the Nobel Prize was given. Bell inequalities are mathematical proofs of entanglement. Entanglement swapping we have seen. Teleportation we have seen. Nahi samajh aa raha, so it's absolutely fine, because honestly I don't know how it works, and not because I didn't try to read it. Nobody knows how it works. Okay, nobody is clear how it is happening. Even Einstein didn't know why it was happening. Okay. What is the application? Application, of course, is in the idea of quantum computing, in quantum networks, in secure quantum cryptography, and this we have seen before. Okay, all right. Now let's come to the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. This Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine, again, I don't have to explain to you, because it has been given to Mr. Svante Pabo. Anthropology students, please take care of this. 100% there is going to be a question in anthropology on this time. Even if it's not there, even if it is not there in prelims, anthropology means 100% this is going to be there. Okay, what he did was, they sequenced, Mr. Svante Pabo, he sequenced the genome of a Neanderthal. Genome, you know what it is? Genome sequencing, you know, it is like finding the entire like complement of DNA of an individual. So he sequenced the genome of a Neanderthal, and then he used the analysis of mitochondrial DNA of Neanderthal. So in Neanderthal also there were, Neanderthals are before Homo sapiens, our current species is called Homo sapiens. Before Homo sapiens, there were Homo Neanderthals. Okay, so some say we have evolved from them, some say we have, you know, come from them directly. How they are related to humans, whether they were our ancestor or not, this research has been done by Svante Pabo. How? He took their entire genome and sequenced it. Then he used mitochondrial DNA analysis. Why mitochondrial DNA? Because see, nuclear DNA or DNA inside the nucleus is coming from both parents. So a lot of changes will happen when they go from one generation to the next. But mitochondrial DNA is only coming from one parent. So the amount of changes that will happen in mitochondrial DNA are far less. This we have understood, because mitochondrial DNA comes only from the mother. Right? Nuclear DNA comes both from mother and father. So if mitochondrial DNA comes only from the mother, the changes in the mitochondrial DNA are less. The variation in mitochondrial DNA is less. So he used the mitochondrial DNA analysis to understand how this DNA has evolved over time. Right? He also discovered something called the Denisova. Denisova is also an old hominin. Hominin means things that were, or human ancestors that were there before us. There are some other examples also which are not important for you if you are not an anthropology student. So he discovered these are basically ancient Homo sapiens, or you know, things that we have evolved from. So there were Neanderthals, there was Homo ergaster, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, etc., etc. So he saw Homo Neanderthal and Denisova. These are human ancestors. From here, he analyzed them and analyzed what their relationship is with us using mitochondrial DNA. Now, these are the difference between mitochondrial and nuclear DNA. We have already read this. Mitochondrial DNA is hardly 16,000 base pairs. Okay, and genetic makeup in case of nuclear DNA is 3 billion base pairs. Okay, ये इस infographic में शायद उल्टा लिखा है, I think just correct that. So obviously mitochondrial DNA is much smaller, but mitochondrial DNA, the number of changes are very less because you are getting it only from the mother. Nuclear DNA you are getting from both parents, so a lot of combination is there. So for analysis study, mitochondrial DNA was found to be better. So he analyzed the mitochondrial DNA and then he understood what is the relationship between us and Neanderthal. So what did he find? I'll just tell you. But there are 2-3 related terms here. First is out of Africa theory. Second is multi-regional hypothesis. Just know these terms are connected. And if you are an anthro student and you don't know this, you know, be prepared for this question this year. Okay. Just know that these are related terms. Out of Africa's theory and multi-regional hypothesis. What they are doesn't matter. Out of Africa I'll teach you right now. Okay. And he started a new field called paleogenomics. Paleo relates to fossils. and genomics reached to genome study. So paleogenomics, study of old genomes of fossils, that is paleogenomics, and he started this new field. He analyzed the genes of extinct organisms. Neanderthals are extinct, they don't exist today. They used to exist some time back. Okay, they got extinct about 30,000 years ago. So that is what he did. He analyzed their genome and saw how it is related to us. So what did he find? He found that Homo sapiens, or modern Homo sapiens, also known as AMHS, anatomically modern Homo sapiens that have the same bone structure as we do, they actually evolved in Africa. Then they exited Africa. When they went to Europe, they found Neanderthals. When they went to this area in Siberia, they found Denisovans. When they came to India, they did not find anything. Okay, or if they did find anything, it's not important for you. So what happened is they bred a little bit, like they exchanged genes, they had sexual intercourse and kids with the Neanderthals here. So 1 to 2% of Neanderthal DNA is there in Europeans. 1 to 6% Denisovan DNA is there in people who live here in the Tibetan highlands, in China, in Mongolia, in some part of Russia. Okay, so if we now analyze populations, African DNA is very different from European DNA, because Europeans have influence of Neanderthal DNA, because Neanderthals used to live in this region. So anatomically modern Homo sapiens evolved in Africa, then they came out of Africa, or the out of Africa hypothesis. When they came out of Africa, they went to Europe. Europe, they replaced the Neanderthals. Sometimes they killed them. Nobody actually knows what happened to them, but they died. The Neanderthals got extinct. We got some of their DNA, some of their genes. So European DNA is now different. They came to Siberia. Here there was an individual called Denisovan. They exchanged genes. They replaced the Denisovan. They had intercourse with the Denisovan. They killed the Denisovan. And then they became the dominant force here also, but they got some Denisovan DNA. So today, if you look at European DNA, they are going to react very differently to some medications because they have Neanderthal DNA. Here in the Tibetan highlands, they have some Denisovan DNA. So there is a lot of variation. That is why Europeans reacted very differently to COVID, because they had some genes from Neanderthals that influenced their immunity. And they actually did not increase their immunity, they lowered their immunity. So Europe had a very difficult COVID as compared to India. Even today, Europe is much more likely to get a COVID infestation than India because of this Neanderthal access into their genome, into their DNA. They have some genes that influence their immunity. And this relationship was found by Svante Pääbo through the study of mitochondrial DNA. This is what it is. This is much is enough for somebody giving prelims. If you are doing this for anthro, when we discuss anthro, I will do it in detail. Anatomically modern Homo sapiens first appeared in Africa 300,000 years ago. 70,000 years ago, they migrated outside Africa. They had genetic exchanges with Neanderthals and Denisovans, getting some of these genes into our genome. These changes in our genome help us to better understand things. For example, European populations are closer to Neanderthals, so they have a different immune response. In 2019, in the Anthro means, they asked directly, Europeans are closer to Neanderthals. So I'm assuming that this is important for the prelims also, because this is on UPSC's mind. Then there is the EPAS1 gene. This was found in Denisovans, and today it is there in Tibetans. And what this gene does, it helps you survive better at high altitude. At mountains, etc., you will survive better if you have this gene. So this exchange through mitochondrial DNA analysis was understood by Svante Pääbo. Now there are some related terms here that you just need to know if you're not an anthro student. These are the types of Neanderthals and these are the types of Homo sapiens. They have already asked a PYQ on what is Denisovan. That is why I'm just giving you these terms. Just associate that La Chapelle aux Saints and classical are Neanderthal types, and Cro-Magnon, Grimaldi and Shanklead are Homo sapien types. What these are, not important. Okay, just associate the words, because this is because they have asked Denisovan before. Now some important things related to Nobel Prizes. Only 5 people have been given the Nobel Prize twice. These are their names. The most important name here now becomes Mr. K. Barry Sharpless, who was also given the Nobel Prize this year for click chemistry. He also got the Nobel Prize in 2001 for some discovery in chemistry. Okay, So these are 5 people: Marie Curie, Linus Pauling, John Bardeen, Frederick Sanger, and K. Barry Sharpless. Then there is the International Committee of the Red Cross, who has won it thrice. The United Nations High Commissioner on Refugees has also won it twice, and this award cannot be given posthumously. I mean, after you are dead, you cannot be given the Nobel Prize. Okay. Now we have to come to dark matter. I've already explained the idea of dark matter to you, but don't worry, we'll again just go through a recap, then understand dark matter, the Large Hadron Collider, and the Higgs boson. These are the things that were left in space. Now let's understand dark matter. Okay. Dekho. Although I have explained this before, I'm just going very quickly and telling you what dark matter and dark energy are. Okay. When we looked at galaxies, okay, in the universe, we looked at galaxies. Galaxies were what? They were collection of stars. They were basically collection of stars. When I looked at these galaxies, I found that these stars, when they are together, right, these stars are together, they are binded in one place. There must be some gravity there. If you understand it as a force, if you understand it as bending of space-time, doesn't matter. But obviously some gravity has to hold it together, the way the sun's gravity is holding the planets together. But when I analyzed it and when I studied it, I found that the mass of the stars that are there are not enough to hold them together. The mass is not enough in this galaxy. The amount of stars that are there, like Milky Way galaxy has all the stars like Sun, Alpha Centauri, etc. The mass was not enough, right? So if the mass was not enough here, where is the missing mass? Where is the missing mass that is holding this galaxy together? This missing mass is what was dark matter. Why was it called dark? Because it does not absorb or emit light. It does not absorb light. It does not emit light, so it appears completely black. It's not a black hole. Okay, it's not a black hole. It's completely different. It is black hole mein kya tha? There was a lot of mass present like this in one place, and light was bending around it, and light couldn't escape. Dark matter mein kya hai? They are just scattered particles. They are scattered particles that have a lot of gravity, right? They are scattered particles. They just don't absorb or emit light. We have seen how things are visible. First, the photon is absorbed, then electron goes to higher state, electron comes back, photon is released. They don't absorb or emit light, so they appear dark, okay, and they have some mass. Anything that has mass is called matter. So this is what? Dark matter. This must be present. Only then this gravity would be enough to hold this galaxy together, to hold this number of stars together. Otherwise, the amount of gravity is not sufficient to have them together. This is the idea of dark matter. The second idea you have to understand is dark energy. When we were reading the Hubble telescope, I gave you the idea of a red shift. A red shift is that the universe was constantly expanding. So the wavelength, let's say it was coming like this from something, just a second. If wavelength was coming like this from something, after it shifts here, the wavelength would become like this, and this would be red, right? Because we've already read the longer wavelength, less energy, red light. So why is this universe constantly expanding? How is the universe constantly expanding? There must be some energy that is letting this universe expand constantly. This energy is what is called dark energy. It is not connected to dark matter, it is something different. It is dark energy, the energy that we don't know how it exists. We know nothing about dark energy except for the fact that it is making the universe expand and it's there. It is an unsolved mystery of the universe called dark energy, that why is the universe constantly expanding, constantly blowing away from each other. So this is dark energy. So what they found was that if you look at our universe, and this again I have explained this before, if you look at our universe, only 5% of the matter is the regular matter that we see around us, which makes up you, me, this camera, this board, etc. Right? This is only 5%. 25% of the universe is actually dark matter. 75% of the universe, 70% of the universe is actually dark energy. What is dark matter? It accounts for the missing mass that is there in, let's say, galaxies, because there is missing gravity. The mass that we can see, that is not enough to hold a galaxy together. There must be something like a dark matter. We have not seen it directly. We are trying to see it, but there must be there. It must be there. Only then the mass is enough. अगर नहीं होता वहां पे, तो हमारे पास कोई तरीका ही नहीं था ये एक्सप्लेन करने का कि ये गैलेक्सी साथ में कैसे है. For that there is dark matter. It is not matter, or it is not mass packed into an infinite ball like black hole was. It is scattered particles of mass, just that they do not absorb light. They do not emit light, so they don't appear on our telescope. So they are dark matter. They are not black holes. Okay. And the other thing is dark energy. Dark energy is what is making the universe constantly expand. So these three things we are clear. Now there is a test, there is a LZ detector in the US, and it is the most sensitive dark matter detector created. It is trying to detect dark matter through emissions. It is placed underground to capture dark matter in the form of weakly interacting massive particles. Just need to know what that this is connected to dark matter. Don't need to know what this actually means, right? So it is an underground observatory. It is trying to get the emissions from the dark matter. Emission will not be light, but they would be emitting something. Maybe they are emitting gravitational wave. For that, we have made this detector, right? Okay. India has not contributed to this. This is important. It's made by US, UK, Portugal, and Korea. These are the countries that have contributed. Why it is called a good place? Because it is free. This place where they have put it, it is free of radiation and dust. So it's one of the purest dark matter detectors made. Dark matter does not interact with electromagnetic force, does not absorb, reflect, or emit light, making it extremely hard to spot. Scientists study dark matter by looking at the effect it has on visible objects. The way you cannot see the air, but you can see wind, or you can see clothes shaking because of the wind. So you are studying the effect of wind, not wind directly. Here also, since we can't see dark matter, right? But we can feel its effect in the form of gravity. So that is being used. It is believed that dark matter is what gives galaxies extra mass, generating extra gravity that they need to stay intact. Okay. All right. So if you look at the universe, 5% is regular matter, 25% is dark matter, and 70% is dark energy. Now, what is the significance of this? Of course, you understand the earth and how it works, etc., etc. Significance, I'm sure you can find out yourself, right? It's no big deal. Now, dark energy, again, universe has been known to be expanding as a consequence of the Big Bang. The Big Bang theory is also called, not where Sheldon and Leonard act, Big Bang theory is called the expanding universe hypothesis. So in that expanding universe hypothesis, why is the universe expanding? Might be because of dark energy. We don't know yet. Okay, it is a mysterious force that's causing the rate of expansion of universe to accelerate over time. The universe keeps on expanding. Why? Because of a mysterious force called dark energy, and we don't know why it's happening. It's still a mystery. So maybe if you decide to become an astrophysicist, you can solve this. Okay. Now let's move on to the standard model of particle physics. Now what is the standard model? So we wanted to find the fundamental particles of the universe. What are fundamental particles? Fundamental particles are basically what the universe is made of. We wanted to see कि ऐसा क्या है which cannot be divided further, right? Which cannot be divided further. So first we thought this is an atom. So if we have an atom, it cannot be divided further. An atom is the fundamental particle. But then when we did more research, we found that there can be protons, neutrons, and electrons. So we have already read this, and we'll read more in nuclear energy, that there is a nucleus containing protons and neutrons, and there are electrons around it, like this. So they thought that, okay, these are the fundamental particles. There are protons, there are neutrons, and there are electrons, and further no division can happen. But then when we did more research, we found that even neutrons and protons can be divided further. Electron could not be divided further, but protons and neutrons in the nucleus, they could be divided further. And then we came to the actual fundamental particle, or I should say the current fundamental particles of the universe, called quarks and leptons. So we found that the actual fundamental particles of the universe were not neutrons, were not protons, right? They could be divided further. Okay, they were not atoms because atoms could be divided further. So we finally came to quarks. क्वार्क को हम तोड़ के, एटलीस्ट अभी क्वार्क को हम तोड़ के और छोटा नहीं बना सकते. न्यूट्रॉन को तोड़ के हम क्वार्क बना सकते हैं, प्रोटॉन को तोड़ के हम क्वार्क और लेप्टॉन बना सकते हैं, बट इलेक्ट्रॉन को हम आगे नहीं तोड़ सकते और इन क्वार्क और लेप्टॉन को हम आगे नहीं तोड़ सकते. सो राइट नाउ वी थिंक दैट दीज आर द फंडामेंटल पार्टिकल्स ऑफ द यूनिवर्स. क्वार्क 6 तरह के हैं, अप, डाउन, चार्म, स्ट्रेंज, टॉप एंड बॉटम. These are just their names. Okay, why this name etc doesn't matter. Leptons भी 6 तरह के हैं. 3 are charged called electron, muon and tau. 3 are uncharged called muon neutrino, tau neutrino and electron neutrino. I'll just explain. मैंने एक एटम को तोड़ा, मुझे न्यूट्रॉन, प्रोटॉन और इलेक्ट्रॉन मिले. इलेक्ट्रॉन को तोड़ने की कोशिश की, नहीं टूटा. फिर मैंने न्यूट्रॉन और प्रोटॉन को और तोड़ा. Then they said मुझे क्यों तोड़ा. After that I found that there were 6 types of quarks, right? 6 types of quarks. These were the fundamental particles. उनके मैंने नाम रखे up, down, charm, strange, top and bottom. I found that there were 6 type of leptons. कौन से leptons? Electron was एक lepton, बाकी lepton थे muon और tau, और 3 leptons थे muon neutrino, tau neutrino and electron neutrino. इन लोगों के सामने न्यूट्रिनो क्यों लिखा है? इन तीनों के सामने न्यूट्रिनो, वर्ड ब्रेकडाउन न्यूट्रल, बिकॉज इनमें कोई चार्ज नहीं है. सो दे वर मुऑन बट न्यूट्रल, इलेक्टाउ बट न्यूट्रल, इलेक्ट्रॉन बट न्यूट्रल. इलेक्ट्रॉन, मुऑन और टाउ के सामने चार्ज था. इलेक्ट्रॉन एज यू नो हैज अ नेगेटिव चार्ज. 6 इलेक्ट्रॉन मिले, 6 क्वार्क मिले, ये बस उनके नाम है. These are the fundamental particles of the universe as we understand them today, and this is called the standard model of particle physics. Okay, now अब इस स्टैंडर्ड मॉडल ऑफ पार्टिकल फिजिक्स में मैंने फिर समझना शुरू किया कि फोर्स कौन कौन से हैं, कि एक एटम के अंदर कौन कौन से फोर्स लग रहे हैं. देयर आर करेंटली 4 फंडामेंटल फोर्सेस. इफ यू अंडरस्टैंड ग्रेविटी एज अ फोर्स यू कैन काउंट इट हियर, अदरवाइज यू कांट. बट द फैक्ट इज कि ग्रेविटी नहीं लग रहा था न्यूट्रॉन के अंदर बिकॉज वो बहुत वीक था. सो ग्रेविटी एनीवे वाज नॉट देयर इनसाइड एन एटम, राइट. तो अब मैंने देखा कि एटम के अंदर कौन कौन सा फोर्स लग रहा है. पहला फोर्स था इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिज्म. दिस इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिज्म इज व्हाट वाज मेकिंग इट विजिबल बिकॉज इट वाज इंटरैक्टिंग विद लाइट. देन देयर वाज वीक न्यूक्लियर फोर्स दैट वाज रिस्पांसिबल फॉर रेडियो एक्टिविटी. ये हम न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी में देखेंगे. एंड देयर वाज स्ट्रॉन्ग न्यूक्लियर फोर्स. द स्ट्रॉन्ग न्यूक्लियर फोर्स वाज व्हाट वाज होल्डिंग द क्वार्क्स टुगेदर. ये सारे क्वार्क्स साथ में कैसे रह रहे हैं, दैट वाज स्ट्रॉन्ग न्यूक्लियर फोर्स. नाउ आप इमेजिन करो कि यू आर ऑन अ बोट. ओके, you are on a boat like this and I am standing here on a shore. मैं यहां खड़ा हूं. So what I do is I throw you a ball. When I throw you a ball on a boat, you will move a little bit. It's a very, very heavy ball. Okay, I throw you a very, very heavy ball like this. So you will move somewhat in this direction. So with the exchange of a particle, some force has been applied. With the exchange of a particle, with the throw of a particle, some force has been applied. तो अब हम देख रहे थे कि ये जो फोर्सेस बचे, वीक न्यूक्लियर फोर्स, इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिज्म एंड स्ट्रॉन्ग न्यूक्लियर फोर्स, ये फोर्स कौन से पार्टिकल्स की वजह से लग रहे हैं, कौन से पार्टिकल एक्सचेंज हो रहे हैं. जैसे वहां पे व्हाट वाज बीइंग एक्सचेंज, द बॉल वाज बीइंग थ्रोन एंड यू वर मूविंग. यहां पे कौन से पार्टिकल्स हैं जो ये फोर्स लगा रहे हैं. तो देन व्हाट डिड वी फाइंड, वी फाउंड दैट देयर वाज अ पार्टिकल कॉल्ड ग्लूऑन व्हिच वाज लीडिंग टू स्ट्रॉन्ग न्यूक्लियर फोर्स. Photon, ये हम देख चुके हैं, already seen, we have seen a photon in case of electromagnetic force of light, and there was a W boson and a Z boson for weak nuclear force. देखो, you don't need to understand this in a lot of detail, but they have asked पहले questions on strong and weak nuclear force. They have asked a question जहां standard model was in the question, right? They asked standard model is related to what. तो अब हमें थोड़ा तो डिटेल में पढ़ना पड़ेगा. तो हमने क्या पढ़ा, हमने पढ़ा कि मैंने एक एटम को ब्रेक डाउन किया. आई वांटेड टू सी कि इसके अंदर एक्चुअली क्या है जो मैं और नहीं तोड़ सकता. सो आई फाउंड देयर वर 6 क्वार्क्स, देयर वर 6 लेप्टॉन्स. उनके नाम हमने देख लिए. फिर मैं समझ रहा हूं कि ये साथ में कैसे हैं. ये साथ में होंगे तो कोई फोर्स होगा. उस फोर्स को समझने के लिए देयर वर 3 फोर्सेस जो इस स्टैंडर्ड मॉडल का पार्ट थे. स्ट्रॉन्ग न्यूक्लियर फोर्स, इलेक्ट्रोमैग्नेटिक फोर्स, वीक न्यूक्लियर फोर्स. अब मैंने समझा कि ये फोर्स एक्ट कैसे कर रहा है. इज इट एक्टिंग बिकॉज ऑफ समथिंग थ्रोन, जैसे वो बोट का एग्जांपल था. तो मैंने देखा कि स्ट्रॉन्ग न्यूक्लियर फोर्स दैट कीप्स देम टुगेदर is because of exchange of a particle called gluon. Electromagnetic force is due to photon, and W and Z boson, these are two particles that lead to weak nuclear force. There was another fundamental force of gravity, but वो यहाँ standard model का part नहीं है. Okay, ये समझ आ गया? This is what the standard model of particle physics is. अब मैं आपको क्यों पढ़ा रहा हूं? क्योंकि now we have to understand the Higgs boson and we have to understand the Large Hadron Collider. इन particles में force कैसे था? This we studied. इन particles में mass कैसे आया? How did they originally get formed? Right? Originally ये कैसे बने? Was it God that created them? Was it the Big Bang that created them? How were they formed originally? This answer as to how they got mass, how did they get mass, and how were they originally formed, this answer was given through a particle called the Higgs boson. This Higgs boson was found in the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. What is CERN? I'll just tell you. Large Hadron Collider क्या है? I will just tell you. This is a place where some experiment was done. It is located in Switzerland. Here I did this experiment and found this Higgs boson particle. And this Higgs boson particle could explain how these small particles were getting their mass, how everything in the universe was getting its mass. It was not God that was giving them mass, it was the Higgs boson. And therefore the Higgs boson was called the God particle, the particle that could explain everything. Therefore आपने न्यूज में भी सुना होगा God particle discover हो गया. That was the Higgs boson because it was explaining how ये quarks and leptons, how they are getting their mass. Right? आपको बस इतना पता होने की जरूरत है. Why etc. the details of it are not important because you're just here to understand the basics. And this is much more than the basics. So CERN stands for European Organization for Nuclear Research. Obviously it's researching inside the nucleus. The name is French. That is why the full form and the name don't match. Okay. It is located where? It is located in Switzerland. India is an associate member here. ये इसके functions हैं. And what have they discovered so far? The Higgs boson, the W boson, the Z boson. They are also, the Large Hadron Collider is here. They are also trying to find dark matter. Okay. So I hope आप connect हो रहा है. Dark matter. They are basically trying to unravel the secrets of the universe. कि यार universe ऐसा क्यों है? Dark matter क्यों है? Why are there so many particles like this? Right? तो ये secrets we are trying to find at CERN at the Large Hadron Collider. Okay. अब ये है क्या? It is the world's largest and most powerful particle accelerator. इसे collider क्यों कहते हैं? Because ये 27 किलोमीटर लॉन्ग ट्यूब है. इसमें हम पार्टिकल्स को लाइट की स्पीड पे ले जाते हैं और कोलाइड कराते हैं. हम ट्राई कर रहे हैं कि जैसा कुछ बिग बैंग में हुआ था वैसा हम यहां करके देखें. हम उन्हें लाइट की स्पीड पे ले जाके कोलाइड कराते हैं. When they collide at the speed of light, we are able to see some of these small particles. This 27 kilometer ring that is there at the Large Hadron Collider, here particles are made to collide and we are trying to see what happened in the Big Bang to understand what parts of the universe there actually are. So that is the Large Hadron Collider. And now what they are doing, they're also trying to understand dark matter. Okay. All right. It has 4 particle detectors. These are its names. Just remember the names. Particle detector क्यों? क्योंकि collide करके जो छोटे-छोटे particles बनेंगे, they have to detect them. Okay. Now we've come to IPR, right? So देखो, IPR क्या होता है? IPR is the right that you have over your intellectual property. The way the name says, intellectual property के ऊपर right. Right over your intellectual property would be what? A right over the creation of your mind. For example, this class is the creation of my mind. So I have a right over its exclusive use. That is exactly what an IPR is. Right? So IPR are given to people over the creation of their own mind. And they usually give an exclusive right to the creator. Right? For example, you make a new drug or a business module or a product or a software. That would be an intellectual property. Now there are certain types of IPR. ठीक है, slides में सारे explained हैं. Certain types of IPRs are given. First is copyright. Copyright is a legal term used to describe things that you have over the literary and artistic work. For example, if you write a book, you have a copyright over that book. Nobody can copy that book without the right granted from you, right? Nobody can copy what is there in that book. So that would be copyright. So that would be books, music, paintings, films, programs, advertisements, even these lectures, for example. But धड़ल्ले से copyright violation हो रहा है. है ना? But so this is what copyright is, right? In case you have made some literary or artistic work, then you would have copyright over it. What is the idea? What is the limit for a copyright? The rule for a copyright, that 60 years after the death of the author, you can use it. So after I die, 60 years after that, this could be used. Okay. So that would be copyright. First thing, जब ऐसे in these terms, right, you just need to understand what it means and what is the amount of years it lasts for. एक दो और चीजें हैं जो इंटरेस्टिंग है, जो वैसे इकोनॉमी है, बट सिंस यू आर ट्रस्टिंग मी, मैं यहाँ आपको पढ़ा दूंगा, right? But here you just need to understand, okay, copyright over literary and artistic works, 60 years after the death of the author, not from the date of publication. So after I have died, 60 years after that, this could be used. But unfortunately, people don't even wait for 60 seconds. Anyway, so when patents is exclusive right granted for an invention, right? If you have invented something new, that would be a patent. Most common example would be, let's say you invent a drug for cancer, a medication that could cure cancer, you could get a patent over that, right? Now patents are geographically specific. So if you want a patent, you should have to apply it. You have to apply for a patent in each country where you require the protection of your invention. So they are geographically, geographically counted. If you want a patent in India, you'll have to apply to the Indian Patents Office, to the US Patent and Trade Office. So you'll have to apply in every country where you want your invention to be protected. That is a patent. Now, patents are of two types. Either you patent a product, that this particular medicine that I have made, this product is my patent, or you patent a particular process that, okay, this medicine lot of people can make, but I have found a new process that is the cheapest way to make it. So you can either patent a product or you can patent a process, right? This is how a patent is given. Since it is geographically specific, in India, the term of a patent is 20 years, right? It has to be an invention that solves a new problem. In India, you will get a patent for 20 years. After 20 years, whatever you have patented, let's say I have made this new medicine that cures cancer and I have got it patented. After 20 years, people can use it without my permission. But till 20 years, I have the exclusive permission to grant rights to use it or not. Now, what cannot be patented? Obviously, frivolous inventions like school bag is not an invention, laptop bag is not an invention, things like that. And the list is written here. Just go through it. I'm not reading because I'll read, then you will again have to read by yourself. So just go through this list. These are things that you cannot patent. Important things here are traditional knowledge. Knowledge that is traditional, like Ayurvedic information that is found in, let's say, our Vedas or in our traditional knowledge, it belongs to the traditional communities. It belongs to the traditional communities that are the keepers of this knowledge. You cannot patent it. For example, what happened once was an American company tried to patent haldi and say that, this has medicinal effect. And we are the ones who have made this invention or this discovery that haldi has medicinal effect. And the patent was granted. Later, India fought that and it was reversed. How we fight this, what we do for traditional knowledge and how we protect it, this we will read in environment, because it has something to do with the Nagoya Protocol, that is a part of the Convention on Biodiversity. And the Nagoya Protocol talks about access and benefit sharing. So when we study this, we will understand why traditional knowledge can't be patented and why it belongs to the tribal or traditional communities that have been the custodians of that knowledge. We'll understand that when we do environment. That starts tomorrow. Now, what is compulsory licensing? Yeah, दो terms बहुत important है जो मुझे लग रहा है इससे ला सकती हैं because patents have been in the news. So there is compulsory licensing and there is parallel import. Now, in case of compulsory licensing, what happens is, let's say there is a particular drug. Okay, this was asked to me in my interview also. That's why I'm telling you it's important. Let's say there is a particular drug which your government thinks, which a competent government thinks that it is very important to make this drug. Otherwise, people in my country are going to die. Now that drug is actually owned by a particular company. They own the patent and they are refusing to give the license. They say that I will only give you the license if you make one medicine for $10,000. Only then we will give the license, otherwise we will not give the license. But our government feels, the Indian government feels that if this license is not granted, many people are going to die. So what they do, they compulsorily award the license to a particular company called compulsory licensing. You are given compulsorily this license. It is compulsory for you to take the license. You are compulsory for the multinational company to give the license to some company and allow it to manufacture. I'll give you the example. Let's say this is a US MNC that says that I will manufacture this drug only if you give me $10,000. So what the Indian government can do is, the Indian government can say that, okay, you are not giving the license. The Indian government says, I will compulsorily give the license to Bharat Biotech. They are now allowed to make this drug and they have to pay you a small royalty, let's say $10 per drug. Right? Because why am I able to do this? Because there is a public emergency. There is a public emergency. And that is why, for greater humanitarian purposes, I am allowed to do this. Now, of course, this will lead to a lot of loss for the US MNC. But this is allowed under the trade-related intellectual property rights agreement of the WTO, or the World Trade Organization has this TRIPS agreement. Under this, there are certain conditions in which you can use compulsory licensing. This is the idea of compulsory licensing. In case there is a huge public emergency, you can compulsorily give the license to your own company to manufacture a drug and pay a small royalty back to the original company, right? This is the idea of compulsory licensing. It's also allowed in the Indian Patents Act under section 92. Okay, it is permitted under the WTO TRIPS arrangement. All right, okay. The second thing that you need to know is parallel import. This was also asked in my interview. Now, what happens in parallel import? Let's say that this is India and this is a foreign US company that makes a drug for $5 in India. It sells it for $5. In Bangladesh though, because they say that Bangladesh is a poor country, so we will sell here for $1. In Bangladesh, they're not that poor anymore, but they said, okay, in Bangladesh we will sell for $1, in India we will sell for $5. So what can India do? India can import this from Bangladesh at $1. So this is what? Parallel with the manufacturing, you are importing from some other place because you want the price to be same. This is the idea of parallel import. As you can both understand, both these mechanisms, compulsory licensing and parallel import, they are exceptions to the idea of patent law. पेटेंट जो लॉ है ट्रिप्स का, जिसमें वो कहते हैं कि पेटेंट में आपको अपनी क्रिएशन पे पूरा राइट है, उसके ये दो एक्सेप्शन हो गए. एक कंपल्सरी लाइसेंसिंग कि आपको लाइसेंस देना ही पड़ेगा अपने पेटेंटेड चीज को मैन्युफैक्चर करने का क्योंकि इमरजेंसी है. दूसरा है पैरेलल, कहीं और किसी प्राइस में चीज दे रहे हो तो मैं उसको इंपोर्ट कर सकता हूं. ओके, दीज आर द टू एक्सेप्शंस. यू कैन जस्ट रीड दिस. यही चीज जो मैंने समझाई है वही यहाँ पे लिखी है. नथिंग न्यू इज रिटन. आई हैव ओनली मेड दीज स्लाइड्स. Okay, now other thing is evergreening of patent. What does a pharmaceutical company do? It makes a new drug like this. ठीक है, जैसे ही उसके 20 साल होने वाले होते हैं, it does a small molecular addition. एक CH3 ग्रुप उसमें लगा देता है और कहता है ये देखो अब ये तो पूरा ही नया ड्रग है और हमें इसका पेटेंट दे दो 20 साल के लिए. जैसे 20 साल इसके खत्म होने वाले हैं, it makes a small molecular addition जिससे एक्चुअली कोई बहुत ज्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता. But it says, okay, now this is the new patent. You give me now patent for this, right? This evergreening of patent is not permitted in the Indian Patents Act under section 3D because this leads to a problem. This leads to a problem because people will have, if the patent is gone, patent khatam ho gaya, 20 saal ho gaye, then everybody can manufacture. Cost of the drug will come down. But if one company owns the exclusive rights, then the evergreening is allowed, then cost of the drugs will always stay. Now, what is TKDL? Just read from the slide. I'll just tell you what is happening. TKDL is India is trying to put all its traditional knowledge in a digital library. We are trying to make one single library of all of India's traditional knowledge, ताकि जो years and years of Indian experience है, traditional medicinal knowledge है, वो international patent offices में पता चल जाए दुनिया को कि देखो ये this is Indian knowledge and you cannot give patents for this to somebody else. We are just documenting it, putting all of our traditional knowledge in one place, ताकि दुनिया की बाकी countries know that okay, this is Indian traditional knowledge, I cannot grant patents on it. This is what the TKDL is. And आपको बताया था ये wound healing properties of turmeric, हल्दी जो healing करती है, उस पे पेटेंट ग्रांट हो गया था, but Indian effort led to its revocation. This now, after this lesson we learned कि okay, we'll make a traditional knowledge digital library. More about this when we read environment. Okay, of course there are some advantages and disadvantages, you can read. Next type of IPR are utility model. Utility model is just like patent, okay, but difference क्या है, that utility model को grant करने की जो conditions हैं, they are much less, right? So utility model is less stringent, right? Product or process which is novel and industrial passes for utility model. इसमें क्या है, that you don't need an inventive step. In patent you will need an inventive step, something new or great that you have made. Here the requirements are less and the time duration is also less. It is between 6 and 15 years. That's all you need to know. Then there is trademark. This is a trademark. This. Okay. Trademark is something that distinguishes the product of a particular company. This right here are trademarks. This clarity for UPSC. I don't own this trademark yet, but this Sarrthi trademark is owned by Sarrthi, right? So this is a trademark. Okay. It is registered for a period of 10 years and then calculated from the date of the filing of application. So it can be a symbol, a logo, a brand name, etc. Okay. Then there is industrial design. So let's say you are making a particular design of something in such a way that it is very specific. Let's say Coca-Cola's bottle, if you see the bottom of it, it has those 6 small pillars on which it stands. That is a 3-dimensional feature, shape or surface. That is ornamental or aesthetic. It is something unique. That is what an industrial design is, and that is given under the Indian Designs Act for 15 years. Okay. This is another type of intellectual property right. Then this is the last one. This is studied very widely in economy, so I'm not going into its detail. I hope you know what it means. It's a geographical indication. It's given for things that have a specific geographical value, like Rasgulla from Kolkata, for example. And it is given for a period of 10 years. Please read up on this from economy. Then there is a trade secret. If you've gone to KFC, you must have seen how their chicken is made. It's very, very different, right? The skin is very different. वैसा आपको और कहीं नहीं मिलेगा chicken. So that recipe that they have, that is their trade secret. So trade secret are confidential information. You can of course sell or license it. It could be formula, recipe, pattern, technique. For example, the formula for Coca-Cola, right? How Coca-Cola is made, that is their trade secret, and it remains valid as long as someone does not discover it independently. It is said that Coca-Cola's trade secret was once leaked and it was found how the formula is made and Pepsi got it. But Pepsi acted very ethically and gave and told them that see, the formula has leaked and this is the formula, rather than using it, right? So this you could use as an example in ethics of what ethical corporate governance looks like. Okay, now we have to see, the IPR is over. That's all you had to do for IPR. We have to see this thing that has happened recently, that Earth has recorded the shortest day. Okay, what now Earth's recording a day is how does Earth calculate a day? When it rotates around its axis. So if it rotates faster than the actual normal pace, the day would become short, right? We would not reset our clocks or anything, but the day would become short if it rotates around its axis faster than its average speed. So 29 July 2022 was said to be the shortest day ever, right? And what is the reason for increased speed? Of course, we don't know exactly, but there might have been some changes in the cores. It might have been climate change. It might have been the melting of the ice caps in the polar regions. Any of this could have been the reason. So this was the recording of shortest day because of the very fast spinning of the Earth. Now, what do we do when the Earth spins slower or faster? The way we have a leap year in which we add a day to revolution, because of the revolution of the Earth, it's not exactly 365 days. So every 4 years we add 1 day to make up for our calendar. That is a leap year. The same thing we do for a day called a leap second. So if the Earth spins very fast, we will have to subtract seconds. If it spins slow, we would have to add seconds. So adding the idea is called leap seconds. So you can have negative leap seconds where you subtract it. when the earth spins very fast, day jaldi pura ho gaya, so you will subtract it. If the earth spins slower, we would have to add it. Similar idea for leap year, similar idea is leap second. Now negative leap second will have to be introduced if the earth spins too fast. Okay, again this is geography, so when you are reading this, please revise the international date line, please revise a little bit on how the earth rotates, etc. Okay, we have already discussed the idea of atomic clocks and how they are designed to measure the precise length of a second. Now negative leap seconds, when they are introduced, they can confuse computers and smartphones, like I told you, because the timing measurement has to be very exact on this, and this can happen if the earth spins too fast. All right, now let's learn about Chandler wobble. Chandler wobble is basically when, let's say, the earth is spinning around this axis, it wobbles a little bit like a top. जैसे लट्टू अगर मैं घुमाता हूँ, वो top पे ऐसे wobble करता है, right? This wobble at the top of the earth's axis in the process of its spin is called Chandler wobble. जब आप ये पढ़ रहे हो, that's it, that's all you need to know about Chandler wobble. But जब आप ये पढ़ रहे हो, please revise from geography something called Milankovitch cycle. Okay, please revise Milankovitch cycles from geography. If you don't know what it is, Google it. Okay, because this is something you need to know. Milankovitch cycles, please revise with Chandler wobble. Chandler wobble is this, not Chandler laughing on Friends. It's just wobbling like this, happening at the top of the earth, right? When the earth is rotating on its axis, there is, because if you spin anything like this, there will be some spin at the top. That is known as a Chandler wobble. And what could be the possible cause? It's caused by temperature and salinity changes in the oceans. So again, when you are revising like this, in the last 2 months, if you come up with a word, let's say you come up with temperature and salinity changes, immediately your mind should go to what are the factors controlling temperature and salinity in the oceans. Okay, all right. Now, the last part, the 3 topics of health that were left. The first one is called ORS. ORS is oral rehydration solution. It is given in cases of diarrhea, and I'm sure you also must have had it at some point in life. ORS was made by Dr. Dilip Mahalanobis while he was working in refugee camps in the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War. Isme basically the concept is that, I think I've explained this before, that from the intestine, when things are absorbed, when something is absorbed from your intestine, let's say you have to absorb sodium, which is a part of common salt, and glucose, 100% I have explained this before, right? Sodium and glucose, if you have to absorb them, they are actually absorbed together. So if you give just glucose or if you give just salt, salt is sodium chloride, if you give just glucose or just salt, they will not be absorbed, because it was found after research that they are absorbed together. So Dr. Dilip Mahalanobis, what he did, he made up a chemical called oral rehydration solution where glucose and salts are given together so that the absorption is better and the water loss that is happening in diarrhea, that fluid loss can be maintained, right? Why is it in the news? Because Dr. Dilip Mahalanobis has unfortunately recently died and he was given a Padma award this year, right? So you can just read from here. I've told you the basic idea of a sodium glucose co-transporter. Right. Next thing is the Indian Biological Data Center. Now, nothing new is there here. What you need to understand is that it has been made and inaugurated in Faridabad in Haryana, right? And it has a supercomputer called Brahm, right? 4 petabyte supercomputer. We know what a supercomputer is, how it's different from a quantum computer. What they have basically done is that Indian biological data before this was not stored in a particular place, right? There was no one place to get all Indian biological data that we were getting, let's say after genomic sequencing, or let's say from experiments that we were doing, or genome project, for example. So we are going to put that all in one place, and we're going to use the FAIR principles of findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable data. So we're going to put that all in this, and it is the first ever national repository for life sciences data, or life sciences data meaning biological data. Okay, it contains the genome sequenced by the Indian SARS-CoV-2 Genomic Consortium, INSACOG, right? It has sequenced the genomes of those people who got infected with COVID to get an idea as to what COVID infection was doing to their DNA. So even that data, that genome sequencing data, is also in the Indian Biological Data Center, which is in Faridabad in Haryana. Now it has two sections. There is a nucleotide data archive. What are nucleotides? A, T, G, C. Back to what we did in DNA. So Indian Nucleotide Data Archive, it has one particular part that has publicly funded projects. So if you have publicly funded project, that is freely available, anybody can use it. Of course, the names of the people whose data is there is not going to be there, but okay, non-personal data is going to be there. This is the first thing. And the second one is Indian Nucleotide Data Archive with controlled access, where you will not get access to the actual data. So some restricted data is there and some freely available data is there. Like I said, there's nothing much to learn here, right? The next idea is genomic surveillance. Now this, I would want you to read this infographic, but I'll just explain the concept. See, we had seen that there is mutation happening, right? Mutation can happen in any virus. Mutation can even happen in people. Now when virus is infecting somebody, it is infecting us, it is replicating, getting new copies, it might get mutated in the process. How will I know that a new mutation has occurred in a virus? I cannot trap the virus like this and say, come, let me check your DNA. What can I do? People who have been infected with a particular virus, I can check their DNA. If I check their DNA, I can check the DNA of the viral DNA that has been integrated, and I can check, are there any mutations or new changes happening? Like we read XBB 1.5.5, like we read the changes that were happening in case of site 486 in COVID-19. So to check that, right, I would have to constantly see the genomes of people who have been infected. So I would have to do surveillance on their genomes. This is the idea of genomic surveillance, to constantly check the genomes of people and to see कि अरे यार इसकी वायरस से इन्फेक्ट हुआ था, देखो कोई वायरस में चेंज हुआ है क्या वायरस की ट्रांसमिसिबिलिटी तो नहीं बढ़ी हुई इसमें, क्या वायरस का इम्यून एस्केप तो नहीं बढ़ा हुआ इसमें. We have seen the idea of mutation. To check that mutation, we do genomic surveillance. Now you can do human genomic surveillance, you can do microbial genomic surveillance for certain microbes, you can do it for plants after introducing, let's say, genetically modified crops, etc. So this is the idea of genomic surveillance, and these are the bodies that are doing genomic surveillance in India. One of them is the INSACOG, whose data is in the Indian Biological Data Center. So this is genomic surveillance. The idea of genomic surveillance, I hope, is clear to you. I am constantly checking the genome to see if are there any mutations happening or not, what is the differences in the virus that is infecting us, etc., etc. Now continuing with health, we left this disease that time, dengue. As you know, it is caused by a mosquito. Which mosquito? You will tell me. Okay, it's written here. Okay, it's Aedes mosquito. Why is this in the news? Because first dengue vaccine called Dengvaxia has been approved. That's all you need to know. It is a viral disease caused by Aedes mosquito, and new vaccine called Dengvaxia has been approved by the US FDA. FDA stands for United States Food and Drug Administration. It is the primary body of pharmaceutical approval in the world. If you get FDA approval, it means that you have the best possible medicine. Okay, तो डेंगू का नया वैक्सीन आ गया है डेंगवैक्सिया के नाम से. That's all you need to know. Now this thing I had to tell you earlier, right, but I couldn't. So this is the last topic that we have to do in science and tech, called sickle cell anemia. Now why is it important this year? It is important because there is a national mission to eliminate sickle cell anemia in this year's budget. Now why does sickle cell anemia happen? It happens because there is a genetic mutation that causes hemoglobin in the RBCs to clump together. Okay, what does it mean? Let me show you. This is the normal DNA sequence of RBC. RBC is like this, red blood cells, the thing that makes our blood red. It carries hemoglobin. What is the job of hemoglobin? Hemoglobin's job is to transport oxygen to all parts of the body through the blood. So when I breathe in oxygen, I get it in my lungs, RBCs come, they will take this, hemoglobin will take this oxygen, get this oxygen to every cell, cell will take this oxygen from the blood, then mitochondria will use this oxygen for respiration. This is the normal process, and this is what a normal hemoglobin looks like, hemoglobin protein. This is the genetic sequence, and there is first, these are the name of amino acids that are there. So there is valine, histidine, leucine, threonine, proline, don't need to remember. So this is the normal sequence of human hemoglobin. Now you can see A, G, T, etc. are written. This is what? This is the DNA, and DNA then must be getting made into mRNA. Then mRNA through tRNA and rRNA get through this protein. So this is the final protein sequence. Now if there is just one change here the actual sequence is CTC, but if CTC gets changed to CAC, this glutamic acid here gets replaced by a different amino acid at the level of translation. If there is one change here, it leads to the formation of different chain of amino acids in the hemoglobin. Glutamic acid gets replaced by valine. Now if glutamic acid gets replaced by valine, your normal red blood cells that used to look like this would start looking like this. These, as you can see, are the shape of a sickle, so called sickle cell anemia. Anemia is absence of blood. So sickle cell anemia happens due to one change that might happen like this. Okay, now sickle cell, okay, I'll just explain to you. Ab dekho, sickle cell anemia would lead to what? That you have sickle celled RBCs. So what will happen in sickle cell anemia is that you get these RBCs. Not all of your RBCs are like this. Some are like this, right? Some are like this, and you cannot get hemoglobin effectively to all parts of your body. So your body will not have effective oxygen delivery. So you will not be able to run beyond a point, right? You will be anemic. If you travel, you will become breathless. If you run, you will become breathless. Now what happens if all RBCs are sickle celled? If all are sickle celled, then you will die. Okay. Now, all are sickle celled, you will die. But let's say you get the sickle cell gene from your mother, but not from your father. This is not the exact explanation. If you get something like this, you have some of them, you will survive. Now think about it. Why is it that this trait of sickle cell anemia, ये जो sickle cell anemia होने की tendency है, ये आज तक है humans में. It's still there. Ideally होना क्या चाहिए था कि देखो evolution या survival of the fittest क्या है? What is survival of the fittest? Survival of the fittest means कि जो non fit हैं वो eliminate हो जाएंगे. इतने सालों से sickle cell anemia हो रहा है ना? इतने सालों से people are getting sickle cell anemia, but still they are there. Ideally, people who had this mutant gene, right? They should have died, and in the process of human evolution, after years and years, they should have been eliminated, and this complete gene of sickle cell anemia would have been eliminated. What that gene does, we have seen. Why are they still present? They are still present because people who have sickle cell anemia never get infected with malaria. Because malarial parasite क्या करता था? Remember, Plasmodium, we have read. Mosquito disease. It goes into your blood, it lives in your RBCs. But if you have sickle celled RBCs, even some of them, malarial parasite cannot survive here. So sickle cell anemia is very high in populations that are exposed to malaria because it provides protection against malaria. So in Indian context, tribals who are more exposed to malaria have more sickle cell anemia. And if we can completely eliminate malaria, kill all the mosquitoes that cause malaria, sickle cell anemia will eventually disappear from humans because there is no need. Those people will be considered unfit and removed by evolution. But right now they are not unfit. This is the interesting story that I said I'll tell you. Right? Sickle cell anemia is something, just please write this. Sickle cell anemia is something which is called an autosomal recessive disease. Please write this, and I'm not going to explain what this means because this will take an hour and it's not important also. Just write this. Sorry, is the one thing I'm asking you to mug up. Autosomal recessive disease. If you still want to know, what it means is that both your parents have to carry the gene of sickle cell anemia for you to get it. Okay, you cannot get it from just one parent. If you get it from just one parent, you will be that mid person who has some sickle cells and some, you are protected from malaria. If both your parents, both mother and father give you this sickle cell gene, then you will die. If only one parent gives it to you, you will have some sickle cells, but you will be protected from malaria. And that is why this gene continues to live on even today. Otherwise, this gene would be extinct. Okay. All right. Now these are some other important news. That trachoma is a disease that India has eliminated. So Malawi is an African country that has also eliminated trachoma. Right? That's it. Recently, through diabetes medication, it has been seen that some infections are happening. So I'll just tell you a little bit about diabetes. Diabetes is when we don't have enough insulin to control our blood glucose. Diabetes is of two types. One is insulin dependent, that body does not have enough insulin. Second is non-insulin dependent, that body has enough insulin, but the body cells stop reacting to the insulin. Even when insulin is there, body cells don't react to it. Type 1 happens in childhood, type 2 happens in adulthood. Then the last thing is Shigella. Shigella is a bacteria that causes shigellosis and it leads to diarrhea in children.